What is going on, Apex fans, and welcome along to Grand Finals Day here at the GLL Masters Summer. My name is Onset, and joining me in the booth is, of course, Dan Gaskin once again. Dan, we've had 5 weeks of actions. We had a crazy LCQ that happened just a few days ago to get our final 10 teams, but now we are down to it. This is the finals. 2 days of action. I'm excited. What are you thinking, buddy?
Yeah, this is where the big boys come back in. We allowed everyone to have their fun in the last chance qualifier. Things got a little bit messy here or there. There was a lot of random pushes that came out. Not necessarily the most strategic Apex that I've seen in my lifetime. But now I think we get the chance to get top level Apex once again. And I'm excited to see how those teams from the last chance qualifier progress now that they are going to be in a lobby full of kind of more competitive players, really. And some of the best players around. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, of course, and we'll take a look at exactly what is coming up as well today in the GLL Masters Summer. I'm sure that everyone's looking forward to this. You can see what we've been through so far. This is, of course, the tournament schedule. We had 4 weeks of league action before our crazy last chance day, which was just a few days ago. But as I say, 2 days of action, Dan, a big grand finals weekend. And for the EMEA region, this really is a great opportunity to separate the best from the rest.
It is, and of course ALGS points as well on the line, so there is a bigger picture for these players as well as just prize money, and of course a lot of pride. Like it's been a long process, like since week 1, since we started at the start of July, and all these teams have been kind of feeling each other out, and now it's a chance really to show what you're made of. And we've got 8 matches now instead of just these 6 that we've had in the previous week, so definitely no excuses, because 8 matches in day 1, 8 matches in day 2. There is enough matches really to set yourself against the other teams and say, I am the better squad, or we are the better team.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was hinting at a little bit here. No excuses for these teams. 16 games to decide who is the best in the EMEA region. And you can see it there, starting on World's Edge for 4, and then we move over to Kings Canyon for the final 4 of today. And this is what everyone's playing for, right? This is the prize pool, $100,000, of course, on the line for the GLL Masters Summer. But the point system, Dan, take us through it once more. I know you love the points, you love the stats, so talk us through once more.
You're used to seeing the point system by now, guys. I don't need to babysit you through it, but essentially the higher you place, the more points you're going to get. Plus, you get 1 point per kill. Don't worry about double points in the Alpha division. Of course, we had Alpha and Bravo divisions throughout the entire weekly process, but now we're into the final. We just have 20 teams, so no one's going to be gaining double points, just normal point process. And we did see in the last chance qualifier some teams just really stepping up and going for aggression, going for those kill points rather than worrying specifically about placement points. And we'll see whether that's more of the same here in the grand finals, or whether we'll see like a more traditional style of people just going for placement and hoping to pick up kill points on the way.
You can see there, 15 grand on the line here for the team who takes home first place in the EMEA region. And that's what we're going to be covering today. Of course, the Americas is going to be coming up a little bit later on today with Bravo and Golden Boy. So make sure that if you're watching now, that you tune in later as well to catch up with all the action. But let's talk about today, Dan, because we've got the big teams kind of made it through, and North are one of those teams who have kind of got better and better and seem to be peaking at the right time. Not only did they, have a fantastic finish to the week's processes of the GLL Masters Summer, also recently won the Super Regional in the ALGS. So they're one team to certainly look out for. But I'm super excited, like you mentioned earlier, to see how these 10 teams that literally had to slog it out against each other in this last chance qualifier a couple of days ago get on. Are there any teams in that 10 that qualified last to this tournament that you think are going to kind of surprise a few teams here as we do look at the teams who will be competing in our grand finals?
Outsiders would be the team that I'm going to mainly focus on. They were the really dominant side coming out of that last chance qualifier. Of course, we can't forget the miraculous comeback from Na'Vi. If you didn't witness the last chance qualifier, they were down and out after the first 5 games and then had a huge 25-point game to finish things off, winning it with some 12 kill points as well, 13 kill points. It was insane from them. So the fact that they are in this final is a miracle after such a poor performance in their first 5. But I mean, just going back to your North point, I remember right in week 1, they started in the Bravo division, Mark. They weren't even in the Alpha division, which is the scary thing. Like, we were looking at that saying, hold on a second, how did North not qualify for Alpha? And then suddenly they get into the Alpha, they continue to wipe the floor with everyone, and they have been one of the best teams out of these 20 that we're seeing today. But I think we're going to see a very closely contested game between quite a few teams that have the possibility, realistically, to win this tournament.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing grand final. The fact that we've got 16 games as well to get through over these 2 days to decide who is the best team in the EMEA region. I'm looking across here and I'm looking at the likes of Alliance. I'm looking at Flavor of the Month, Gambit, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. You've got Luminosity. You've got all these incredible teams who really, anyone, we usually say in a grand final, if it's a 5-game final like we've had, or a 6-game final like we've had recently, you kind of say anyone can win. But I really feel like the fact that we've got 16 games to decide who is the best in the EMEA region, it's kind of, for me, it's the first opportunity one team has had to really step up to that plate and say, look, across 2 days of action, we are the best team in the EMEA region. And I feel that is a real title and something that a lot of teams are going to covet.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily going to come down to who, this is going to sound weird, but who's playing the best, because all these teams can play very well and be successful. It's who manages to find success when they're playing at their worst. When you have that really rough game where someone maybe drops near you or you just don't get the right loot, you find yourself in an early battle and you lose a player or two, who can actually pick up those points, who can get to that late game, who can rat their way, because that could be the difference from winning or coming third. And we've seen throughout the weeks how some teams actually excel in those different situations where their backs are against the wall and they do have to kind of pull their finger out a little bit. And teams like North have done that. When you think, oh, there's 2 eliminated, they're probably not going to get very far, suddenly there's a rat who survives to top 3, and that is so valuable just to be picking up those placement points when you do have those games where maybe the RNG goes against you, or maybe it's just been a game where your team hasn't performed as well.
Well, do you know who I'm going to talk about a little bit here that I think are going to be one of those teams who kind of return to form, so to speak? And it's going to be Alliance, because for me, recently they kind of fell off a little bit, right? They had this huge success in the EMEA region and the European region when they were the team that kind of introduced Caustic back into the meta, and there was a really big shift in the way that people started to play, not only in the lobbies but against them, knowing that they would have that Caustic. And over time, I think teams have kind of got used to how that played, so they've tried to change their comp a little bit, and they're now running Revenant a little bit and kind of experimenting in a few different compositions to see what is going to be the most effective for them. But as I say, and I have said a few times in the recent shows that we've done here at the GLL Masters Summer, is having these weeks and weeks of practice, having these weeks and weeks of competition, game after game after game, is giving these teams the opportunity to get that practice in, to get solid, to find that little bit of magic that might maybe have been missed previously. And I just feel like Alliance are one of those teams who have found that again. And I just feel like in the grand finals, when the backs are against the wall and the pressure is on, they are certainly a team to watch.
Well, we're in the ship and we are ready to kick off the grand finals. I mean, it's been a little bit of a wait since the start of July when we kicked all of this off, but I think we quite rightly have 20 amazing teams, and there's so many who have the possibility to win out games and go clutch and get big kill games as well. That's what I'm really excited for. Especially when we're now seeing teams more comfortable, Mark, that you were just talking about. Like, they've been able to feel themselves out a little bit, kind of get familiar with what the lobbies are going to be looking like, what compositions are going to be best suited for them, rather than playing around other people and what other people are playing. Just say, no, actually, we play best on this composition. Let's just focus on this. Let's forget about what the current meta is. Let's just do what works.
Well, let's see what works for North, who are, in my personal opinion, the form team, the winners of the most recent ALGS Super Regional event for the EMEA region as well. So really a team in form and providing the results to go alongside that. But Lazarus here over at Drill Site look like they may be in a little bit of an early engagement, but having a charge rifle off the drop and watching this team rotate, they're going to be able to get damage down. And I always feel these first games are interesting. We always talk about, are teams aware of where each other are going to be dropping? Is there going to be a little bit of contention just to kind of establish that spot that you want? Well, early on here, you can see Lazarus are having to back a team off of where they want to drop.
Big Van, one of the teams that got through during the last chance qualifier. There were a couple of dicey games there for them, but ultimately their rotations were pretty good. That's what impressed me most about this squad. They were usually there or thereabouts when it came to late game, but it just really depended on where they were able to situate themselves, whether it was kind of oncoming players rotating towards them or whether they were able to gatekeep successfully. That really made or braked their game. You can see there the circle is going to be slightly southeast over towards Geyser and Lava City. We did have a Geyser finish in the last chance qualifier as well, which was very interesting, but I don't think it is going to be that. Maybe it's going to be slightly closer towards sorting, but we'll see what these players think it's going to be and how they're going to rotate and how they're going to set up accordingly.
I think the prime position here is going to be some teams who choose to occupy some of the space inside Sorting Factory, but that little compound in the choke between Lava City and the Geyser is going to be the ground that I think a lot of people are going to want. We've got high ground to rotate from. You can watch those teams rotating in below you or kind of late on their rotation into that circle. But an interesting circle for sure to start off here, and one that is going to put some pressure on teams' weights across here the map on World's Edge and the way that they want to make their way towards it. And one team who are making their way towards it, of course, is Nasky, Strafe and Dell. Now, these guys have been phenomenal recently. A little bit of a quiet tournament in the last one that we had in the Super Regional by their own standards. However, they land central. They're going to be one of the teams who always make that quick rotation. The Lava City boys, they're catching someone on the rotation right now in the tunnel just outside of Fragment West.
Lava City boys are another team who only just about scraped their way into these grand finals as well. I mean, we've seen amazing performances from them elsewhere in other tournaments, but in this tournament, they weren't really able to kind of get going. And I wonder whether now they've been able to get the confidence finding their way into the grand finals, we might see a little bit more from them. But just going back to Nasky, Strafe and Dell, I mean, they were one of my favorite teams to watch throughout this weekly process. I know that they've only been able to pick up 2 victories out of the 24 games that they've played. But in those 2 victories, they looked so strong. And their ability and their knowledge of the game is clear, but they just need to have the execution. Whereas the side of North, who you can see here, they've only picked up 5 victories out of the 24, which actually isn't as many as you think it'd be, considering they were the leaders coming into these grand finals.
Yeah, certainly one of the most consistent teams as far as top 5 placings are concerned, though, and that's going to be backed up, of course, by the points that they've managed to put on the board, as they're actually going to make their way through Geyser now, and wouldn't surprise me to see them try and maybe hit Geyser, but they're actually going to be contested here inside this building. Some nice shots here from Tashin on the Watson just to back that player down, and you can see Mandy and Tashin more than happy to try and get away from this battle, as RPR has actually maybe been caught in a little bit of a difficult position here, holding that door on the far side as his teammates now have to rotate back. He's going to put that portal down for them to get to him, and I'm not sure if they were caught between 2 minds there. Did they want to take that fight? Did they want to just try and beat this team ahead of them on the rotation? But now they are going to be slowed down, but they're going to be pretty happy inside this building. The dome building inside the guys are one of the better ones to hold. And the question is, are they going to be happy with this position, or do they think that ring is actually going to be pulling a little bit more to the south of World's Edge here?
The R99 was there as well, so that's going to be 2 of them having an R99 in hand. The major pushers are going to be another team setting up in this compound, which is good for them, having the Caustic. Any sort of circle where you can set up and you can get the Caustic in a position where it can do some damage, you're going to be pretty happy having that composition and having him available to you. So major pushers will definitely be hoping that this circle that ends there or thereabouts near where they currently reside, so they don't have to move too much. But if they do have to move, they do still have the Gibby to kind of bubble their way into maybe unorthodox positions. And major pushers were a team that impressed me as well. Like, this is why I'm excited for this grand finals, Mark, because there are 20 teams who at some point have done something pretty spectacular. Whether it just be consistent performances throughout the 4 weeks, whether it be the miraculous comeback of Na'Vi. As I say that, the miraculous comeback might come down to nothing. He does manage to get the bat off, and now he's going to get aggressive and push in. And he is the last remaining player here, so has to survive, has to win this 1v1. I think it's a 1v1 anyway. They're both dipping and dodging and diving behind the shields, but Na'Vi go down. And Exorcism will just about live out, as Na'Vi are our first squad eliminated out of this match.
Yeah, Na'Vi set themselves up for a comeback. That's how I'm going to put that. And with what they did yesterday, they pretty much were anonymous for the first 5 games. And then just in game number 6 decided, 25 points, that's what we need. That's what we'll go and collect. And we'll make our ways into the grand finals today. So a little bit disappointing there for Na'Vi. Not the cleanest of 1v1s either. I thought the 9 Imps maybe had a little bit more of an advantage in that battle than he probably made the most of in that situation. But Outsiders, the top team, like you mentioned, from our last chance qualifier, they're kind of in the area that I'd like to hold down personally. Those buildings up to the east of them are probably going to be occupied at this point. They do, of course, have the Pathfinder as well, so they're going to know where that next circle is. And another team who's going to know where that next circle is, of course, Alliance, the team that I'm certainly keeping my eye on as they make their way through the Vault Tunnel here towards Lava City. And they are going to be met with a little bit of resistance here. A team rotating from the north of the map, and a big crack of the shields there with that grenade is going to give them the opportunity not only to potentially push, but it looks like they're going to choose to back that team down and, again, just be first in the race for the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to push, but at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to retreat and get into a better position. But unfortunately, it looks like there was another team situated outside of that tunnel, as Outsiders are going to lose their first player. And it looks like Nessie were able to take down that one. Graceful, Mady, and JMW have all got a decent amount of armor here. Of course, that Evo shield is going to be a scary factor if he can find some damage with it as well.
Yeah, this is the former Triumph lineup. Now looking for an organization, and if you are one of those people who's involved, you should be looking to pick that team up, because Medilo has been an absolute powerhouse for that lineup, and certainly one of the most mechanically talented players that there is in the EMEA region, and certainly want to keep an eye on. Vibin have made their way into Lava City here, holding down both sides of this 4-story building, and probably going to look to hit that beacon again. That's going to give us all the information that we need, as Joke is going to light that one up in the skies. Let's see where that next pool is going to be. So it's going to be towards the dome, the small dome just outside to the north of where they're currently set up. And that's a little bit of a difficult circle to play. You'll be looking for teams to maybe take the high ground on that dome late, or trying to play inside those bins, but it's quite an open area. And as it pulls away from that dome, you're going to see those team fights go down.
Nasky Strafendell in a little bit of an awkward situation here. Max is going to get picked up, you would have thought. There is going to be protection there as well. Nasky just doing his job as the Watson. And just looking at that circle, I think the biggest problem is going to be for those teams who did set up early in Geyser, because they're going to have to push out, and they're going to have to push out up to high ground, which has already been claimed. So it means they either have to try and take on a team that is going to be set up in that choke, and actually there's 2 teams there in that choke, or they have to kind of run through open area where there's going to be several teams that can look at them. So this is going to be tough, especially for those teams who have gone for that composition of kind of having a caustic available to them. Not really the best for just pushing out through open territory.
A Cooler Esports then set up just outside of the dome at the moment, and maybe looking to make their way towards it and make a rotation in from the east, from the west, excuse me, to the east of the map. Lazarus Esports are going to have to make their move as well, but they do have a pretty good position here up on top of Sorting Factory, and we talk about it a lot. Sorting Factory, one of those places, if you can hold down the height here for an extended period of time when you do have one of those eastern circles, then you really can punish those teams who are trying to rotate in late and make their way all the way across World's Edge towards where that circle is. So Lazarus in a position here where if they can hit some shots and they can get a little bit of momentum going, there are some KP potentially available to them, as they do, of course, land those shots on the team, which is below them here in Sorting Factory. The difficulty is the longer that you leave your rotation here, and if it takes you too long to clean out your back, then you do leave yourself kind of in that position where you're not claiming any kind of good real estate, and you're going to have to battle your way in for a spot later on.
Yeah, I think it was important they did turn around and land some shots there, because if they had just kind of kept going and maybe just hoped they were able to shield up, that's always going to encourage the team below you to potentially push you, because they feel like they've got the advantage, they feel like they've done damage, and they might think that you're not feeling confident about your fights. But the fact that we're able to turn around and actually put some shots in just kind of says and sends that message of, we are prepared to fight you. We've got the high ground, so you stay where you are, buddy. Don't worry about that. So good from them to actually show a little bit of confidence, as Vibin have found themselves in a decent spot. It is going to be in the next circle as well, and it just means they can rain down fire on teams who are trying to get into a more comfortable space. But Joke's going to be back down here, and SJP2, another one of my favorite squads from the weeks, they are going to be able to get it down and probably finish this one off as well.
Thermite's going to come through the grenade, though, just to make their life a little bit more difficult. That player will be finished off, and that's Yuki from Cooler Esport. We saw them trying to make that difficult rotation and trying to play it late, but the problem is, with Lava City being such a close POI in comparison to where this circle might be ending, there's going to be so many teams stacked up against each other and on top of each other in this small area. If you're trying to make your way across open ground, you are pretty much just a sitting duck for those scout shots, the wingman shots. And to be honest with you, any gun that anyone has in their hands is going to be dangerous. But SJP2 now, they're going to have to make their way forward ever so slightly. They will be inside that next ring, but looks like they want to progress a little bit. And they might have just seen a team sneaking under the train station there. Just once again, just cleaning the edge of circle, making sure that they can't get shot in the back before they choose to make their way forward. And now you can see Denze moving inside of this building, and not the best of buildings to try and hold down. There's a lot of areas that you can get grenaded and get pushed quite easily. So looks like they might be trying to set up now to take one of these floors inside this building, where I believe Nasky, Strafendell and Vibin were both located. So we'll have to see if there's room for them to squeeze in.
He's just going to back off. He thought about trying to get the portal to the next level, but instead they have to go for the ground floor here, which is going to be dangerous because there is 2 teams above them and close to them. So now they've just been able to walk into, well, all the fire and flames at this point. Bubble goes down just to keep them alive, but they're going to have to fight their way out of this one, Mark.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them as well because they're kind of stuck between two teams, which initially was quite good for them getting that dome down because it meant that neither team really wanted to push, knowing that there was the opportunity to be third-partied in that battle. But they have managed to make their way inside of this building, so we now have 3 teams, I believe, in this building just to the northwest of Fragment East. Nasty Strafe and Dell, one of those teams here, as we have a quick look on the third-person camera to see the Wraith shaking it. That's all I'm going to say about that one, as we go back into the first person to see how they're going to plan their next rotation. But 1 minute left on this circle, and still 17 squads remaining here, as we see Flavor of the Month and Alliance both exchanging some shots in the kill feed. Major Pushers, Nessie and Na'Vi, our first teams eliminated. But this is where we're going to see a big chop down in those teams.
Yep, as this circle comes in with 49 seconds now, it's going to be a case of those players who are down to just one, like Flavor of the Month, for example, just having the one player. Are you going to be able to rat your way in and get into a position where you can at least pick up some placement points here? Otherwise, it's going to be a wasted match for you. Alliance still very healthy in terms of their shield totals, and it looks like they have plenty of resources, plenty of meds available to them. And a little bit of utility, I would imagine. Grenades for late game, always going to be very important, but Luminosity under a little bit of fire here. And now, can they actually survive here? Are they going to be able to win this particular engagement?
Big shots coming in with the R9 here from Sanya. Another player going to be pushing. Unfortunately, Sanya has gone down as well, so it's now a 2v1 situation, and the shots are going to hit with the wingman, but is it going to be enough? No, it's not. Ad Hoc Gaming swoop in onto Luminosity and eliminate them from the tournament. Zippeth immediately turning around here to make sure that no team is trying to get in position for a third party. But Ad Hoc, great stuff from them in that situation. Taking down a powerhouse lineup like Luminosity is always a confidence builder.
Yeah, Ad Hoc Gaming were one of those squads that kind of floated between Alpha and Bravo Division. In Week 4, they were in the Bravo Division, and they ended up winning that division quite comfortably, which gave them enough points to get into the Grand Finals outright without even having to go into the last chance qualifier. And I think that can be said for quite a few teams, actually, that got into the Grand Finals naturally in the top 10, is when they did get relegated into the Bravo, they absolutely stomped that lobby to ensure they were getting straight back into the Alpha so they could try and take advantage of those double points, rather than being kind of just drop down into Bravo and staying there for a week or two and then just slowly but surely climbing your way back out. A lot of teams just made a statement and said, no, we are not a Bravo team. We are very much an Alpha team in this tournament. As the circle moving yet again, and those teams that did find themselves under the bridge, actually it's just one team that is going to be under the bridge. They're in a decent position right now, but they are going to be somewhat vulnerable to all these teams rotating in.
Yeah, the difficulty here is all those teams in Salt and Factory now are not only going to have to fight, but try and rotate in ahead of each other to make their way towards this end circle. So it might be a case here for a team like Third Impact to start getting those KP on the board, because a top 1 finish is going to be extremely difficult for them in this situation, and that is why you are seeing them set up once again to make the most of this Crypto Revenant composition that they do have. Here comes the EMP, here come the big shots as well. Ziki managing to drop the shields of not even just one player, I think it was almost 2 players in that, as Jazz now moves in to try and finish those off. Ballon G is going to give him a hand, and that's going to be a clean wipe. All 3 players going to be taken down, as they almost managed to take down another player as well, as Ozus manages to just about scarper away with a slither of health here, manages to get back up to a full complement, but a difficult position for them there. But all these teams who are fighting in around Sorting at the moment, it's going to be a little bit of carnage as they try and make their next move.
Yeah, I think Oz might have been that last remaining player from Exorcism that they were pushing. They were able to do so well there. And again, we're seeing how aggressive the Revenant and Crypto composition is, especially utilized with Wraith and her ultimate, just ensuring that once you're out of that kind of situation with Revenant's ultimate, you can actually just straight away get aggressive again thanks to the port. Luminosity, Major Pushers, Nessie and Na'Vi, the 4 teams eliminated so far, but now with only 27 seconds left before Ring 4 it closes, well, this is not going to be a good situation for those who are trying to rotate in late here. They're going to find it very tough to navigate across all of this open space. There are a couple of nooks and crannies and rocks that they can hide behind, but there's going to be a lot of onlooking teams trying to make this very difficult for them.
There are 16 squads trying to make this difficult for each other at the moment. We've only lost 4 as round 4 is about to close here, so expect that kill feed to go absolutely ballistic at any second as these teams try and make their way in. North, one of those teams who are holding down the high ground here, a fantastic position, and RPR once again just showing how to use this wingman, not only landing those body shots, but headshots from range as well. And this man is another man who's really stepped up in recent weeks with that slaying potential that he had, turning into slaying prowess, as Gambit Esports now are going to be taken down, and that's one of the biggest squads that we have in the EMEA region. One of the biggest performers have been eliminated here pretty early on in game number 1.
SJP2 go down. Cooler, I think, are fallen as well. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are struggling, you can see in the kill feed. And there's several teams now that are really on their back foot. Cooler, it's going to be Rowe as the last player, but he falls as well. So now all these teams that are trying to desperately go in just haven't been able to find their way into the circle. The team that has, though, is going to be Alliance. And you spoke a lot about them right at the start. Look at this positioning, Mark. I absolutely love it. Right on top of the dome. It's so difficult to try and take these boys off this position right now.
Yeah, Alliance really done well to get into this position as well. And we went from 16 squads to 8. We halved the field in a matter of seconds there. And that's how tough that rotation is if you are coming from the east. Looking across here, we do have one player alive here who looks like he isn't going to be much longer for this world here. It's going to be Figvam's last player. He is going to be taken down as well. But there are your eliminated teams on the right. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, they're out. Gambit out. Luminosity, Third Impact, all huge teams in the EMEA region, as Adult Gaming now somehow made their way into this position just outside of Dome. And they're looking down on Alliance, who are certainly going to be trying to exchange some looks.
Oh, for sure. They want to get involved in this as Finalized doing a little bit of work here. Nook, real damage that he's got. Another Gibby Dome will come out so he can get aggressive here with the Mastiff in his back pocket as he's going to land some shots. So a couple of little dances around the Dome. Connects with one, can't connect with the second, but the third is good. And that's going to be the fight one for them, and they should be able to get the res in time. The Dome does disappear, so they've got to be a little bit careful here, but there's a lot of coverage for them as we're down to just 5 squads now. Alliance, Finalized, Flavor of the Month North, and Outsiders. 5 huge teams, all names that we know have the capability to win games.
Yeah, Flavor of the Month with just that one player alive, though, who is the Gibraltar. And I think the Hackies is trying to actually set a portal up here for Alliance to maybe look to get another angle onto that player or those players who are going to be rotating in. Certainly, Ad Hoc Gaming and them are in the position to potentially win this game as North now start coming under fire. And Mandy is going to be the last man to try and pull off something miraculous for them. Hits a big 74 with the Mastiff and is actually going to grapple in as well through the defensive bombardment. Can he land in a safe zone? No, he cannot. There is a player in front of him. That was the solo Gibraltar, I believe. Finalized will be out as well, so now we're down to just 3 as Alliance to still Kings of the Castle up on top of the Dome.
Yeah, the Alliance getting aggressive now, looking for more here. They certainly have the advantage here. It's just going to be Outsiders, the remaining team, and it might be that solo you were talking about. Here he comes, and there's going to be so much fire here from the Alliance squad. They have the advantage. They have the 3 men. It should be the victory. It is the victory. Alliance take game 1 home. They just had such a strong position on top of that Dome, and they were able to carry on and just show what a dominant spot they were in, Mark.
Yeah, great stuff from Alliance, and I love the fact that my crystal ball kind of worked, to be honest with you. I said that Alliance were a team that's certainly sort of fallen off a little bit, but you just expect that big performance to come out of them. And in game number 1, they certainly have shown that. Not only the fact that they took home first place down, but the KP that they must have put on the board. Every single time we were looking through Alliance's POV, it seemed like they were winning a battle, knocking a player, finishing a player. So that could be a really big game for them. But as I say, 16 games is this grand final, so one game is certainly not going to win you the tournament.
I would have loved to have heard the collective groans throughout that game as the circle moved on and on, because all these teams were setting up in different positions, and then suddenly the circle would move away from them. There's we've got to rotate again. There's already teams set up over there. We've got to push teams that are on high ground. It was so tough for there was 8 different squads outside of Ring 4, and they just couldn't get in. They were all just absolutely destroyed as soon as they tried to move, whether it be bombardments from Gibby's ult or whether it was grenades. It just seemed like everything was there and against those teams that were outside rotating late. But I guess that showed the benefit of just predicting where the circle is going to be successfully and being able to get into those rotating zones a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and also, it's one of those things as well. That's a difficult circle for the teams on the east side of the map to try and access, like we mentioned. And as we have 16 games now, obviously there are going to be more opportunities for those rings to pull over to where those teams are going to be landing on the west side of the map. So it's kind of even out a little bit. And those teams who are set up in Sorting Factory, if they could have picked up kill points, the likes of Third Impact, for example, then I think they actually wouldn't have been too disappointed with that game as long as they got those KP on the board. So big performance from Alliance in that game number 1, but certainly a lot of teams who would have had difficulty accessing that end zone. I think there was a few teams there who would be pretty happy with that game number 1 just based on the KP they picked up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the KP's like, especially for teams like Third Impact, as you say, running that more aggressive composition and looking for that KP in situations where they haven't been presented with the opportunity to get an early rotation. And that's what I was talking about when we were in the pre-show, where I was saying how teams who know they're not going to be able to win and know they're not going to be able to get a victory because of where the circle is or whatnot, how they actually respond to those games. Those teams that were dropped down to 1 or 2 players in the early stages. How did they rat their way in? You saw there was just a couple of players remaining that were able to worm their way into circles, and I think that's very important here, Mark.
Well, we're going to go for our first break of the day. Don't worry, though, because game number 1 was alliances, but game number 2 is just around the corner. We'll see you in just a sec. Welcome back, everybody, to the GLL Masters Summer Grand Finals weekend for the EMEA region. Dan Gaskin, I see you shaking your head. I know you're excited for this one. Game number 1 went to Alliance. Good comeback to form for them. Great way to start the tournament. But an interesting circle gave us one of those indications where, you know, we see how this EMEA lobby is going to kind of play. Everyone's going to try and rotate as late as physically possible. And you saw the field go from 16 to 8 in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, some teams were a little bit more favored with their rotations than others, but I was more impressed by those teams who did get in early, whereabouts they situated themselves. Alliance in particular, that spot on top of Dome was pretty naughty. It's not easy to get up there as well, because once you try, there are a lot of teams that can shoot you from various angles, but once they were there, it was just clean sailing from then onward. Like, they just had such a phenomenal position. They were able to watch all the other teams fight it out, and then they dropped when they needed to. And they only won 1 match throughout the entire weeks, Mark, when we were actually in the qualification for this grand final. And they've already matched that now in the grand final. So are they going to build from that? And is this Alliance, is this the resurgence that you were talking about? Or are they now going to win that one and be like, all right, well, there's our one. We'll just carry on placing how we did previously.
And let's check out the leaderboards after game 1 and see how they stand and where they are. They're obviously going to be in first place, you would imagine, because they got 10 KP to go along with their 12 placement points. Finalized, though, you can see a big slaying performance from them. 12 KP on the board for them, putting them on 17 points. And Flavor of the Month, just in behind them as well. That solo player managed to do so well again. And that's something you were talking about, Dan. Getting to those placement points right at the end as a partial team or a solo player is absolutely huge for your standings.
It is just massive to make sure that you've got that ability to do so that you're not just relying on those big, massive games for you, and you need to have that backup plan, someone who can pull things out when you need it. Disappointing performances for the likes of Nessie, who dropped early. Of course, previously Triumph, as you said, they finished 10th in the overall standings before week 5, so they only just got through to the grand finals, but now they're being outplaced by some of those teams who maybe had a little bit more practice being able to play the last chance qualifier as well. Another team down low, Nasky Strafe and Dell, just the 3 points for them. They got 2 KP, but unfortunately they were one of the teams that were lost during that big kind of the big loss of that game where we saw like 8 teams drop, all trying to push in at the same time. But overall, I thought that was a good match 1. That was a good way to kind of indicate how this is going to go. And now we're going to see how teams build on that and what they do to try and change things.
We've got 3 more games on World's Edge here as well for teams to really start getting comfortable with how each other are playing as well. And I think the fact that we do have a lot of teams playing in different ways as well now. You have those teams who are trying to early rotate. You have those teams who are trying to play Edge. You have those teams who are playing Revenant and Crypto and just don't care, just run at everyone, essentially. That's a little bit of a joke, don't worry. I know there's more to it than that. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we are seeing those situations like we just saw with those 16 teams alive, where you have a few teams who have rotated early, who are then successful because some people are playing Edge, some people are playing aggro, and you see that field get cut so quickly that it almost is one of those lobbies that I feel like some teams are going to have to react to with their comps and how they're going to play things. Are you going to choose to rotate a little bit earlier than maybe you would previously, just to avoid some of those teams who are playing Edge, who are playing that Crypto Revenant, in comparison to how maybe you wanted to start out this tournament? So I think the fact that we've got, as I keep mentioning, those 16 games across the next 2 days is... you have to be adaptable as a team, right? You have to be able to change your approach to the game to be successful.
I kind of feel like if you know where one of those aggressive comps is dropping as well, if you know where Third Impact is dropping, for example, I'd almost be tempted to drop away from them, because they can really ruin the flow of a game. When you've got, I don't know, let's say 17, 18 squads who are all trying to play like a more of a normal style of Apex, and they want to rotate in a little bit earlier or maybe a little bit later than usual. And you've got this one team who's just running at everyone they see. If you're on the receiving end of that, you're going to be a little bit annoyed, a little bit frustrated, because you're trying to think about your normal process of, all right, guys, when do we rotate? Oh, there's a team over there. And suddenly, wham, suddenly is attacking you from behind. And that is not going to help you out at all. So I'd like to just get away from them. That's me personally. If I'm playing more of a default style, I'd like to get away from the aggressive teams. But I know that's easier said than done, because you can't change necessarily your drop location just willy-nilly. So I'm excited to see what happens in game 2.
We're having a little bit of a lobby restart here, so we'll get into game 2 as soon as possible. One team I want to keep my eye on in this next one as well is Natsuki, Strafe, and Dell, because they are landing Fragment East. We know that they usually get a beacon to work with as well, and I'm interested to see how they perform a little bit today, because I do feel like they were kind of, after they had a huge performance in one of the super regionals for the EMEA region, are they going to be able to continue that form? Are they going to be able to take themselves to the next level? Because I think with a few teams in the EMEA region so far, you kind of see them hit the heights, right? And they've played really well, and they've got to this point, and all the work and the effort that's gone in to get to that point. But as the cliche is, right, it's harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top. And I'm still waiting for that one team to kind of command that position a little bit. And when you are dropping Fragment East as well, I always feel there's a little bit more pressure on you, because you have that center zone. You have the fairly decent loot to go alongside it. Maybe not as good as some of the other places, but you have that ability to rotate freely and quickly to every single POI and fight from there. So I think that adds pressure to teams who are dropping in Fragment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it does. It means that the circle should be in a good position for you pretty much any time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's north, west, south, or east. I've never said it that way either. By the way, I would always go, no, yeah, I would. No, I go never eat shredded wheat. That's what I usually go. Never, you're north, east, south, west. Anyway, that's just me going off on a tangent. But I feel like if you're dropping centrally, you're always going to be in a decent position. Your rotation should always be somewhat comfortable. You're never going to have that same position where people who in the south, they're going to have to go all the way across the map to the north. So yes, it does add extra pressure, but it also means that it throws a spanner in the works certain times, because people will be doing something a little bit different every game. You're not going to have a simple rotation every game, because they're going to be people who are trying to rotate differently from east to west, for example, to try and avoid other people maybe they've come across in a previous game. So I think it keeps you on your toes if you're going to drop centrally in the map. I guess it's not necessarily about pressure, but it's just more so that it makes it a little bit more difficult, because other teams are going to be a little bit harder to predict.
Okay, well, we're still waiting for game 2 to get underway, and don't worry, we've got plenty of games to get into today. So I'm just looking across, and it says game will start in a sec. So in 1 second is when the game will start, but I do believe that is maybe a turn of phrase more than something literal. But Dan, let's talk about Alliance as well, because we talked about how they've kind of fallen off a little bit, and we were looking at their composition there and gone for a more standard composition that we usually see from them, and the Pathfinder being one of those legends that they have managed to pick up here to look for those beacons, to look for that early rotation. Now, I look just a couple of weeks ago, and how they were playing. They were trying to play edge of zone a little bit more. They were hunting for kill points, and to me, that signifies maybe a little bit of a change of playstyle from Alliance.
Yeah, I mean, looking for kill points, I think, is a good idea in this kind of format, especially in a lobby like this as well, where maybe there's some teams that have a tendency to do things a little bit differently and try and catch you off guard and go for that aggression. I feel like if you try and play too much of a standard early rotation, then you're going to get more frustrated the more things go on. So instead, try and match some of the aggression, try and match the kind of going for kill points in early stages from other teams, and then you'll feel a little bit more rewarded as you're going to pick up more points. But it's having the ability to know when to shift into a different situation. If you are going for kill points, but then you find yourself in a good position in the circle, you suddenly revert to, okay, let's rotate early. Let's make sure we situate ourselves where we can take teams out that are coming into us, as we are now diving on in to match number 2 on World's Edge. And of course, as we always do, we start with the winners. It is going to be Alliance here, and they're going to be dropping on that train, Mark.
I was going to say, the rich get richer. They get the train coming to where they drop as well here over at Thermal Station. So that's going to be great news for them. And you can see some beautiful loot to go alongside it. They're going to get the beacon as well. Oh, what a start here for Alliance. You win game number 1. You get everything you could possibly want. You get the train, you get the beacon. It's all good pickings, right? And they deserve it. Do you know what, Alliance? You deserve it. You won game number 1. Here you go. Have a chance at winning game number 2, but you're going to see where that circle's going to be pulling. You see a few pings on the Pathfinder beacon as well around Lava Fissure, not taking in Drill Site. We don't see a lot of finishes around Drill Site, even though that is quite central to the circle. So it looks like a lot of teams are thinking it might be that building just to the west. Oh, sorry. to the south. Jesus, you've got me completely confused.
Never
now.
eat shredded wheat.
Yeah, but you've confused me with your compass nonsense. I used to be so confident. One team that isn't confident at all at the moment is Na'Vi, as they are taken down first in our game number 2. It was second in our game number 1.
No, I think fairly certain they were first in game number 1 as well. They just have not been able to perform as well as maybe they would have liked. And, well, I guess after the last chance qualifier, we already expect this from Na'Vi, right? They don't turn up in the first few games, but then they show up when they need to. But I feel like if they don't show up for 15 games and then try and come back into things in the 16th, they're not going to have as good a time as they did in the last chance qualifier. But that will be them falling. 19 squads left, and I'm sure now everyone else is going to be focusing on trying to rotate to the northeast side of the map. And it does often end up in that one building or next to Lava Fissure, and then you get that high ground battle where the one team probably is going to have to revert to the low ground just to survive and try and go for the top 3 placement, and then eventually they have to push the team at the high ground, and they usually lose. And I say usually because the majority of the time it's me on the receiving end of it.
Well, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, the team that I wanted to keep my eye on during this second game, and shout out to the observers picking up on that as well, making their rotation from Fragment East here through Train Yard, pretty much as the bird flies as quick as possible to where they want to set up. As you can see, nobody currently here in Train Yard. I always found it a horrible place to rotate through Train Yard. There's so many teams that could be sneaking in those carriages above and waiting for those late rotators and land those shots on you. So they're going to be keeping their eyes on those carriages above and making sure that any of those teams aren't going to be in position. But here comes a team that might be able to catch them off guard a little bit here. They're about 5 to 10 seconds behind on their rotation, but if they got their skates on here and they get into position, they might have some clean lines of sight onto Nasky, Strafe, and Dell.
Yeah, they are going to be right behind them, but do they want to give away their position? That's the real question. When you've got a caustic on board, you probably want to go unnoticed for quite some time until you are in a nice, comfortable spot where you can get into a building and then you can utilize the caustic traps efficiently. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, though, probably not aware there is a team behind them. However, they are on the hunt for loot, it would seem, because there's a lot of pings for weapons right now.
You can see only 2 syringes in Strafe's bag as well, so he's going to be looking for meds. And I think the one thing, when you do leave Lava City, when you do leave Fragment as quickly as possible to try and take advantage of that quick rotation, then sometimes you do sacrifice a little bit of loot to do so. So it's kind of a risk-reward strategy that we saw TSM try and employ in the Americas region. They've changed their playstyle up a little bit, but Nasky, Strafe, and Dell seem to be sticking with that and sticking to that regiment of leaving at a certain time. And now they're set up in a pretty good spot here inside of zone. And one thing they do have, by the looks of it, is some ammo to work with. There might be just a little swap of weaponry between the two players.
Sharing is caring. That's what I always try and tell you, Mark, but you never share with me. I think you're pretty selfish when it comes to your play in Apex Legends, if I'm particularly honest. Cooler Esports have been eliminated and will be taken out nice and early, so that's a shame for them. They haven't been able to pick up in the early stages of this grand final, as there is plenty of bombs dropping elsewhere, and Luminosity Gaming are having a little peek here to see whether they can maybe get eyes and do a little bit of damage. R99's Eva 8s in the back pocket, so a lot of close combat weaponry available to them, whereas not much for range. Whereas for Lazarus, they've got G7 scouts to work with. They can do a little bit of damage here, but as you said, drill site probably not the ideal place to be right now. Of course, it works out, but when it comes to that later circle, they're probably going to have to move a little bit.
Then we have to see if it's going to pull towards drill site or if it's going to move somewhere else. You can see the pings over at Lava, meaning that some teams are probably predicting it's going to be over there, and one of those teams who are trying to make their way towards when they think that circle is going to be ending is North, as they're set up inside of drill site themselves. They do have that Pathfinder as well, so they're going to have pretty good information on where that is going to be pulling, and they look pretty content at the moment. You can see, you can hear the gem below them as well, so they're quite happy to sit here for a little bit of time. One team who's not happy right now is Alliance, as they're getting pushed, but it looks like they're getting the kills. It looks like they're picking up the clean wipe, and from sadness to happiness, Alliance managed to pick up 3 KP. And not only that, that's going to give them confidence at top of the fact that they managed to take home that game number 1 win. So strong start here for Alliance.
Yeah, but they've left themselves a little bit vulnerable here. There's a lot of teams that know where they are. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are one of those teams that are just on the outskirts of these rocks of Lava Fissure, trying to get an eye, maybe trying to rotate to get a decent position, get some high ground. And they are in one of the better spots, I would say, for this potential circle finish. Of course, there are a couple of pings towards the other side, and look how many teams have already found themselves in and around Lava Fissure. Quite a few up in residency at drill site as well, and not too many teams still to rotate. And actually, the rotate isn't going to be too difficult from those teams who are outside, just because there's so many teams inside already. But it's going to be that next circle that follows where they're really going to find difficulty.
Look at the team at the
Someone on the train.
Southern part. Someone on the train, yeah. Just look, just chilling. Past Mirage Voyage. Tickets, please. The next stop is Lava Fissure, where you will probably die.
Awaits you is a lot of death. Well, how are they going to play this one? It's always interesting when you take a train in. Of course, they are trying to stay out of visibility outside this, though. They might have caught wind of it.
Who's driving that thing? Almost got some air going up that ramp.
Here comes Vibin. It looks like Outsiders spotted them, but so did Alliance. And Alliance have had a lot of trouble in this particular building because it is one of the first buildings you come to when rotating from that side of the map. But now they've been able to reset Mark. They've armored up, and it looks like they want this fight.
Yeah, Alliance have got to protect this spot. Them and Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are in the 2 power positions so far, as Strafey's trying to get involved with a long-range grenade onto this team. Vibin that is in that train. It is stopping here. It looks like Alliance are trying to get aggressive as well. And I tell you what, the hammer points are going to be hitting pretty hard here with the P20. So Hakis doing a lot of damage here with the little orange gun. And he can't get the finish onto those final 2 players. And looks like Nasky, Strafe, and Dell will get involved with some KP themselves as they manage to finish off one of the players. Hakis got to be careful here, though, as the Wraith maybe get a little bit too thirsty here, and the team who's taking advantage of that is Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, and now they're going to push in for the third party.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, as the 3 were just battling it out, as here comes Nasky, manages to get the final shots to eliminate them. And now we're going to be down just to 16. Vibin are the next team to fall. But now Nasky, Strafe, and Dell have to get straight back in to their little cozy building here.
Yeah, Gambit have gone as well, and that's a little bit of a surprise to me. That's 2 games in a row where Gambit really haven't featured at all here on World's Edge. One of the most talked about teams in Europe, one of the most successful teams that we have in the EMEA region overall. And Alliance at the moment doing a really good job of not only just holding up this building, but making sure that they're picking up KP along the way. They managed to get Hakis back into the game as well by recovering his, or managed to get the res, I should say. So he's back in the game. So Alliance doing a pretty good job here, having been on the back foot to get his defensive enforcements back into place and get him back into a place where he can still compete in this game number 2. You can see there are lots of armor swaps to work with as well, so that building is going to be pretty difficult for anyone to push. Flavor of the month, arguably the latest rotating team, apart from the one that is out to the east of World's Edge here. Haven't been able to find their way in as such, and this is a tough rotation now with all the high ground being taken. A lot of pros talk about how Lava Fissure is one of the most difficult places to rotate into late, so going to be interesting to see how they play this.
Yeah, and I think Alliance have already spotted them as well, so where they've been pinging on the map suggests they will come into contact with Alliance first, and it just depends whether Alliance are going to get shot in the back when they try and take that fight, or whether Flavor of the Month will maybe try and just work their way around the rock a little bit differently, but either way they're going to be running into a lot of trouble, and that is not good for them indeed. Flavor of the Month were one of my particularly favorite teams in the early stages because they were one of the more aggressive sides, but looks like here now they've changed things up and they're going for the later rotation, but of course their drop location might not have quite worked out for this circle. It might have forced a later rotate from them, as North are in a decent spot here as well. A lot of vision, and there will also be very firmly gatekeeping teams that might be pushing this way. So big chance for them to potentially take off a building of one of these teams if the circle forces them to do so. But they, of course, have the idea of going back through this choke point if needs be as well. So lots of ability to change up how they want to approach this endgame.
You make a good point about Flavor of the Month as well, because they drop over at Lava City. So a long way for them to go. One of the furthest distances they have to travel, right from south of the map all the way up to the north. Lava City boys, they're one of those late rotating teams as well, and all these teams are going to be looking for fights ahead of them, looking for fights in buildings so they can pounce on those and clean up the players and take a little bit of position themselves. The hermit crab approach, almost, as Hodzik calls it himself. You see something become available, you move forward and you take it. But SJP2 are trying to make a little bit of a different approach in towards Lava Fissure here as they're walking their way around the outskirts. And a couple of fences going to have to be taken down. It looks like Lava City boys are going to be in this kind of area as well and have to put some shots down to back up, but They've got some time to work with here. You can see they're comfortably inside that next circle, so they can take their time to reset this fight.
Yeah, they've got time to work out where they want to go and kind of reevaluate the situation, but it doesn't change the fact that their rotation into the next circle is still going to be very difficult. And you can see all the different pings as the conversation is going to be back and forth between the team right now of all the areas they could be going, also the areas they need to be watching at the same time, just in case they're getting pushed from behind. As the majority of teams are in this next circle. I wonder if anyone has been able to utilize that Pathfinder beacon over here in Lava Fissure to get a better idea of where this next one is going to be. SJP2 have found themselves in residence in the lower parts, or I guess you could say this is the middle ground actually of Lava Fissure, which sometimes is a good place to be in, but when it gets to that late game and it's the final few teams, you can find yourself still below those teams who are on the rocks just ever so slightly above you.
I think a lot of teams are holding their breath at the moment about where this is going to be pulling this next circle. So in around a minute and 25 seconds time, of course, we're all going to find that out. But for now, it's going to be a little bit of posturing from the teams. And I think a lot of them are trying to think not only what plan A is here, but what plan B is. If we see a little bit of a strange shift in this circle, how are they going to approach that? What teams do they have to fight? So this is where your IGL comes in again. It's you know, you put all the eggs in one basket, and do we have full confidence that it's going to pull this way, or do we need to give ourselves that plan B and a way to exit? As Flavor of the Month have managed to creep their way up here using this train track as cover. And as you said a little bit earlier, Alliance are the team who are in front of them, and I think Flavor of the Month probably realise that as well, so they're not too happy to engage in this fight.
Yeah, Flavor of the Month, they have time though to work with here. Again, it just means that they can kind of plan things and take things a little bit slower and just be quite calm in their approach. It's never fun when you're trying to push into a circle and you've got the red zone chomping at your buttocks. So instead, they now can wait. They've got 30 seconds. They can see where that next circle is going to be. And then they've got the possibility of rotating with the teams that are also moving to that next circle. So it's worked out okay for them. Even though things weren't looking particularly great at first, they still have a chance to potentially dent other teams' chances of rotating in at the same time.
Well, it looks like Lava City boys have managed to do enough damage to make them move up here into that next zone, but can't quite get the finish on one of these players. If they do get one of those shields cracked, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to try and push onto that team. But there is another team who's trying to get involved here, and that is why that Gibby defensive bombardment is going to be thrown down here by the Lava City boys. The only problem is it's going to be met with the Watson ultimate. The interception pylon is going to eat that up for dinner. Unfortunately for Taskmaster, he stepped out of that zone and took a little bit of a beating himself. So Exorcism now forced to back up, and that's the defensive bombardment doing its job.
Ad Hoc Gaming, one of the more aggressive sides throughout this tournament. Going for a slightly different composition as well. You can see the Bloodhound was there and playable for them. There's 3 kills now for Lava City boys. And wow, they're hitting some big shots with the Wingman at this point, being a real nuisance to that one team in the distance who have had to retreat into the Gibby bubble. As in 2 seconds, Mark, we are going to find out where this next circle is going to be going, and it is going to be a big moment for a lot of these teams, and it is going to be a heavy shift over towards Lava Fissure, as a lot of teams did predict, but it's going to be slightly south of Lava Fissure. So a team like the team that was rotating in late, Flavor of the Month, they're actually not in a bad spot here.
No, they're really not. And I think that high ground that is to the west of where Alliance are currently residing is going to be where this zone potentially could finish. So this is one of the toughest end zones for teams to rotate into. If you're basically not in position now, there is no way that you can win this game. So KP is the name of the game. But for Flavor of the Month, as you said, they've managed to sneak their way into a pretty decent position here where they're not going to be caught down low. They're not going to be, you know, without an entrance or a line of sight towards where that next circle is going to be going. So it's teams like we see here, Outsiders, who are going to have a little bit of a more difficult time moving in. Those teams moving from drill site where there isn't anything to work with, they're going to have a more difficult time. Major pushes now, taking under this bridge, and of course around that corner it's going to be Flavor of the Month, so they need to be super careful here.
Yeah, Flavor of the Month actually are going to be just in front of 2 teams that are going to be trying to get their spot, so they can do some real damage and being a very nuisance third party at this point, but they also need to be considering where they're going to go with this next circle. This Major Push is still under some damage. They've not been able to push much. Instead, they're kind of holding back at this point, being shot by several different teams. Ranches has gone down, but maybe they can res in this gas, but Outsiders are wise to it, and that's some real damage with the R99. And even though the Outsiders might be in a bit of a compromised position themselves, they are at least making this very difficult for Major Pushes.
Yeah, Kater's got to be careful here as we see the the Caustic ultimate come in as well, trying to finish him off. And I think that's Alliance trying to get a piece of this action, pick up some KP for them along the way. Malaman now, as a Caustic, trying to do what he can to stay alive for his team. It might have actually been his ultimate that was designed to give himself a little bit of a smoke screen as well as stop that team from pushing. But Flavor of the Month at the moment, they're just kind of overlooking everything, and Nothing's trying to just get a few knocks. But unfortunately for him, he can't quite get it done as the Gibby bubble is going to go down, and Major Pushers, with their backs against the wall, have somehow managed to all get back into this fight.
They've survived, but out of the frying pan and into the fire now at this point, because this is not going to be fun whatsoever. They have to push through several different teams. Yes, okay, there's a little bit of a crevice there they can get into, but Cleve now falls. There is still going to be 2 alive, but they are going to be underneath so many teams at this point. So this is not going to be a fun situation for them. Whereas Alliance still in prime position. Whereas Flavor of the Month might just be to their left, though, so they do need to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those zones again where we see all of these teams drop, and you can see it in the kill feed again. Flavor of the Month getting involved with some KP, but Ad Hoc have gone out, Netty have gone out, Luminosity have gone out as well, and now we're down to 11 teams. As Flavor of the Month now are forced down to this low ground and play for these kill points, as the Pathfinder is going to have to grapple back to this position. They're going to play the low ground here, but you can see where this is pulling a difficult pull for a lot of teams to have to work with.
Flavor of the Month down low. That next circle isn't too bad for them, but again, it's not a game-winning position realistically when you are down low in Lava Fisher. You have to have that high ground, otherwise it's going to be a real struggle. Finalize getting aggressive now, looking to get a bit of KP. Decent massive shots, has the wingman in the back pocket to get out. And now they use the Gibby bubble to try and take this real estate, try and take this building off of the team they are pushing. Nook is very low though, so Bryn needs to get involved in this, which he does. That's a big shot, but elsewhere, Alliance are under a little bit of pressure here as well, Mark.
Yeah, not just a little bit of pressure, a lot of pressure. They've lost their Wraith in Hackius, and now they're going to have to push in here. They don't manage to crack the shields of the Gibby. It's just going to be the arm shield, which is going to be broken. And Pierre and Flavor of the Month just to clutch up against the Lions. Big shots with a Mastiff to finish things off. We're down to 5 squads now. Alliance are out. Flavor of the Month, keep rolling.
Flavor of the Month as well had one of the toughest rotations in this game, and they were able to just play it perfectly and wait for that circle. Alliance were always going to be that one stopping power that was going to be in front of them, and they've been able to win that engagement, and now they've got a little bit of high ground to work with, but it's still going to be a somewhat difficult push into this next circle as we're down to just 5, and that circle, round 5, it's closing 20 seconds before a lot of these teams are going to find themselves all cushy and close together.
Yeah, the one good thing for these teams is we now see just 4 squads remaining, is there is going to be a little bit of room, at least for them to work with. But SJP2 a center zone and looking very, very comfortable. The gold on the shoulders of Denze and the 2 purples to go alongside him, whereas North, as you can see, working with the purple and 2 blues puts them at a disadvantage in a straight fight. But North, you can see, trying to work their way into that next circle as well, but they're on the low ground. There's teams overlooking them, so there's no real way for them to get in unless they look for that portal. But one way of getting in for SJP2 to the KP, I should say, is by hitting big Kraber shots. The shields are going to be broken. No headshot, though, means that won't be a down.
Yeah, decent shot. Enough of a warning shot, certainly, to give SJP2 a little bit of a breather here as Flavor of the Month are just trying to survive on this line. They have lost 1. North has gone down, and, well, at this point, it's just playing a very dangerous game here, and I'm sure Pierre, at some point, is going to have to try and grapple up and take this for the team and try and get into that top 3 placement as the other team seems to be in a somewhat more comfortable position.
I think that other team is Nasky, Strafe, and Del. Unless they were taken out. So that team who is just to the north of where North are, he's holding down. The only building really still inside of that next zone. You can see it is Nasky, Strafe, and Del who are in this building. So we talk about that early rotation again, and this is what it gives you. It gives you those positions. It gives you the opportunity to watch teams moving in towards you and survive till that late game for those placement points. The question is now, can they convert on this position? They don't have the best of armors to work with in comparison to some of the other teams, but they're going to be hoping the damage is done by the other teams to each other as they make their way in. Here comes the portal now from SJP2.
Yeah, all the teams going to be trying to walk into this next circle now. Round 6, SJP2 drop the portal, and here comes the ring closing in. Nasky, Strafe, and Del do have prime position at this point as Flavor of the Month are going to lose Pierre, and Flavor of the Month are not in the right position right now because North are spraying them down, but so are Nasky, Strafe, and Del.
Speaking of sprays, it's the chopper, and it is going to be Just 2 squads remaining now. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell surely in position to win this game as they manage to take down that team who are porting. Great shots and a great angle coming in here from Strafey, and Nasky's going to get involved as well. And surely there's only one player remaining here for them to take down. It has to be Mandy from North, who has to pull off the miraculous. He comes up, but it's not going to be good enough. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell will be your champions of game number 2. And you have to say that early rotation was absolutely key for them to pick up the victory.
Yeah, I think them and Alliance were both in decent spots with where that potential final circle could be, but the only thing for Alliance was Flavor of the Month challenged them and tried to take that position off of them, and that meant that they had to take the fight, and unfortunately they lost that fight. Otherwise they could have been in a decent position as well. But Nasky, Strafe, and Dell doing really well to rotate early, get into prime position, and then it was kind of easy pickings once they got into that last circle. It just played out for them almost, and of course they had to hit their shots at the same time, which they were doing, but a very impressive game from them. But you could say the same, a team like Flavor of the Month, I feel like they did very well considering the circle that was presented in front of them.
Yeah, such a tough end zone, as you say, over at Lava Fissure, and so many teams struggle to get in there and and find themselves a place to call home to make that a difficult end game for a lot of teams. But Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, I want to give some credit actually to Nasky, because this man, he's the IGL for this team, and he puts in hours and hours and hours of research into end circles, where they're going, how they get to those positions, what position is going to be the best position for them to hold down, and that work is paying off. And you can see exactly there, they knew where that end circle was going to be from just that second ring, and that kind of thing, it separates the best from the rest. And again, you have to give a shout out to the IGL here. Great decision making from him on where that circle was going to be pulling.
All started with that train ride as well. Like, that's was always a scary situation when a team comes in on the train. You never really know what's going to happen. Is it going to shake up all those teams that have rotated early and tried to situate themselves for that final circle? A lot of exciting fights, a lot of big fights that had a lot of implications for the late game as well. This being one of the major ones, Flavor of the Month versus Alliance. If that had gone Alliance's way, they might have been able to more comfortably rotate into the next circle, but instead it was Flavor of the Month who came out on top. And then to finish things off, it was Nasky, Strafe, and Dell just awaiting all the rest of the teams to push them when they had the high ground. And in the end, it was quite a comfortable victory, but they had to work very hard to get there in the first place.
Yeah, they did an amazing job there, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, of not only taking the first battle as the last 3 teams alive, but immediately getting reset and getting angles onto that push that was coming up. And I think it was the angle that was taken by Dell, I believe it was, or it might have been Nasky right at the end, just peeking around that kind of the boarding that was just to the left of the team that were climbing up on that wall. Those little things there forces that other team to retreat. Forces them to rethink how they're going to approach it and catch them off guard. So that damage done was a real game changer for them. But Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, I just want to say, by the way, first game I said watch Alliance. Second game I said watch Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. I'll let you pick game number 3 when we get back, Dan, because we're going to go for a quick break, but we'll see you in just a few. Welcome back, everyone, to the GLL Masters Summer, and Game 2 is officially in the bags. And I just need to decide, Dan, who's going to win Game 3 now, because I got it right. 0 out of 2. What you got to say about that?
Well done. Can everyone give Mark a round of applause? He's feeling very happy about himself. But yeah, you called it right. I mean, it's difficult to call it, I'm going to be honest, because there is a lot of teams who have the potential to win these games. Like, there are so many teams who are very closely contested, so being able to kind of pinpoint who's going to take it where is difficult to do so. And, well, Game 3, I guess who's going to win it, Mark? I guess we might as well get a prediction out of you so you can try and make it a trifecta.
Hey, look, I don't want to ruin it for everyone. Okay, I'm going to leave Game 3 to the chat to decide who is going to win this one. But looking at the scoreboards after match number 2, you can see where we are standing. This is match 2, excuse me. And you saw Nasky, Strafe, and Dale taking home first place, but 12 kills as well to go alongside that. 24 points on the board. North starting to turn up a little bit as well. 16 points for them. But I'm looking at the other end of the table and seeing Gambit there is a real surprise to me. A team that has been one of the best in the EMEA region so far. 2 games on the bounce where they haven't performed, but they do have the chance, of course, to make those points up as we roll through the days.
Yeah, Gambit, of course, finished second overall after the 4 weeks, only picking up 2 out of 24 victories in terms of the games they played. But it was their consistency throughout that really had them as one of the big boy teams. But this is how things look combining games 1 and 2 together. Alliance do still top it, 2 points ahead of Naski, Strafe, and Dell. Flavor of the Month have been able to push their way up into the top 5, joining North and Finalized. And then, of course, still down at the bottom is Na'Vi, Gambit, and Cooler overall. But still plenty of time to work your way back into things. Still 6 matches left today, and then another 8 matches tomorrow. So you're definitely not down and out just yet, but you don't want to give yourself too much to do in these later games. You need to start finding some consistency sooner rather than later.
You don't want to leave yourself in a position where tomorrow you're kind of playing for, placements. You're not playing for those top of the leaderboard prizes where that cash is. So big game here for some of those teams, and big games, I should say, for some of those teams who are down in that bottom 10 at the moment. But one team who had a fantastic game with a first place finish, Champions banner, and loads of KP to go alongside it, were of course Naski, Strafe, and Dell. And they're going to hit that Pathfinder beacon here at Fragment East immediately. And we are going to look here at an Epicenter / Refinery finish, but it does look like it's heavy pull towards Epicenter here, Dan.
Yeah, Epicenter is where one team resides as well already, so they'll be in a comfortable spot, at least you would think, for a top 10 finish. However, sometimes you can get a little bit itchy when you are right on the spot of where that zone is going to be, and you want to maybe extend your horizons a little bit more and go for a little bit of loot. But we will see how they play this one, as it does look like they're separated at the moment. There's actually going to be 2 players in Epicenter and one of the other players, I think, towards Survey Camp, and then they'll probably meet in the middle. Whereas Naski, Strafe, and Dell are still just looting over here in Fragment and just ensuring they can get as best as possible. As we look over to Na'Vi and Mark, they've been eliminated first in both games so far, and they've gone for the Revenant Crypto combo now, which worked so successfully for them in the last chance qualifier. And we'll see whether it helps them out here in match number 3.
In one game, it worked out very well for them, and that was the only game that they needed it to work out for them. That final game where they performed that insane comeback to even be here in our grand finals for the EMEA region. So we'll have to see if Na'Vi can put it to use here after, we'll call it a slow first couple of games here. But one thing I just want to talk about quickly is some of the pings we're seeing and where that potential end circle prediction could be. We're seeing it pinged just to the east of Refinery in that little building. You're seeing one of the pings underneath that platform with the silos on it as well in Refinery. So it looks like a lot of teams are thinking, even though a lot of Epicenter is being taken in, of course, by this Pathfinder beacon circle that you could see, that second circle, it's not going to finish particularly around there. There isn't a huge amount of finishes around Epicenter, so that high ground is going to be something that certainly is contested for between Epicenter and Refinery.
Yeah, we see it finishing on that high ground quite often. Sometimes it does dip towards Refinery as well. So there is there's the option of going for the high ground. Of course, you leave yourself somewhat vulnerable to teams rotating in late, or you can go for a slightly safer approach in the lower ground around Refinery, which might not lead to a victory, but it might be closer to getting their top 5 to top 3 finish. So again, it's about assessing the situation and trying to realize whether this game is winnable or not from where you currently are. And sometimes you have to have that plan in mind right from the get-go.
Well, Dell's going to be damaged here as Naski, Strafe, and Dell do make their rotation in here towards Refinery. It looks like they're pretty confident about where this one's going to be finishing off. The only problem is Exorcism are holding the gates and saying, nope, you ain't coming in here without a fight, as they have to now reassert themselves in a different position. They're going to be holding this door as well, but there's going to be a Thermite to meet them. And for Naski, Strafe, and Dell, the winners of our game number 2, this is bad news, as Naski is going to be burnt to a crisp. He's going to be taken down, and I love this push coming in here from Exorcism, taking no prisoners whatsoever, pushing onto the damage they did, and getting the wipe as well, as I think that last player just managed to squeak away, and squeak away he did, like a little mouse. Strafe manages to get away with 1 HP. We'll have to see what he can do from here.
Here comes Na'Vi. Oh, can they get aggressive? Can they pick up some kills? Certainly is going to be one. At least they have succeeded in managing to push and get hold of this building. But of course, picking up KP at the same time is going to be great. But it is going to be Exorcism there, and we are going to see some shots from Taskmaster here. But he's going to get shot from somewhere else as well. Has to be careful, but goes down. The res is possible. It's whether Oz goes for it here. Looks like he will, and it looks like the team that actually took him down are occupied elsewhere, Mark. As it's North now getting involved as well, and there's just so many teams here just trying to fight for this real estate.
It's going to be Na'Vi who managed to use that Revenant, though, to silence North, so they're not going to have any of their abilities to use. It's going to be straight up gun skill for them, and you can see why they are retreating in this situation. Don't want to fight in a position where they don't feel they can pick off a third party or have those advantages that they do need, but the silence is now worn off, so they can re-engage, and beautiful shots here from RPR as he's going to try and move up onto that damage that he has done, and there's more damage, and there's a finish as well. RPR getting super aggressive, and he's paying off for him as well as he's hitting every single shot that's firing from his barrel.
So many shots. Is Na'Vi now down to just one, and Imps only has a little slither of health, and that grenade is not going to do well to that slither. He's going to have to use everything to escape here. Needs to get somewhere where he can bat up. And unfortunately, does not escape. And Na'Vi again with an early exit here, and North also under a little bit of fire. Everyone here in this refinery just trying to take pops at one another, just trying to assert their dominance so that they can maybe take the building for themselves.
Tashin just about managed to get around that corner there, and that was big for him that his teammate managed to re-poke and just give him a little bit of cover fire to distract that team who are trying to get the finish. It's major pushers. Been hitting some nice havoc shots and have taken this little area just underneath where North are currently set up. So this is the thing about refinery endings, right? We see a lot of teams stacked up on each other. We see that high ground being one of the ideal places to be held, as we're now going to see the ultimate accelerant being popped by North up on the area above them. So that means that any grenades that are going to be coming in, they can get that Watson ult down and they can hold that position pretty comfortably. It looks like North may be hearing a little bit of fighting going on above them here, and they realize that team has moved out. So this is the area they've decided to reside for now, moving up a couple of levels here towards that high ground. And that's a much more comfortable place to fight from here for North.
See the ups and downs of Apex as well. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell eliminated, like how they can go from winning a game to then finishing in 19th. Shows how competitive this lobby really is. 17 squads left in the circle, still plenty of room for people to reside, but because it is a circle that is somewhat easier to predict than others, that's why we're seeing so much more early fights as people trying to battle for prime position. Finalize trying to land some long distance shots with a scout here, does crack a shield, does Nook, but is just going to retreat with the rest of the team. As maybe Flavor of the Month are actually going to look to get a little bit hungry for some kills here.
Shots are coming in there onto Taylor. He has to retreat and pop that bat as he gets inside this truck just for the time being. But no Watson ult down means that, and no Watson in the comp means that they haven't really got a base to work from. But LG now, they do have the Watson, but they do also have Rugby being taken down. And not only that, he's going to be finished off. So LG kind of stuck in a little bit of a difficult spot here. As we're seeing the Gibraltar defensive bombardment fall down from the skies on top of them. Flavor of the Month have managed to use that to get out of a little sticky situation they found themselves in and get the res. So Flavor of the Month will be a full 3 stack here, moving towards that next circle. And yeah, look at that, fully purpled out Sentinel for Pierre as well to work with, and maybe you can get a couple of picks here as they move towards that next zone.
Well, if you can trust anyone, then Pierre is going to be able to hit shots, that's for sure. But they do have to work their way into that next circle. Of course, they do have time. They just know where the next one is because of Pathfinder's ability. North still in this kind of ego war, I would say, in this building right now, where both teams keep having a little peek at one another just to say, look, back off. We understand that you're in this building with us as well, but we currently have the high ground. Stop trying to take it from us. You just need to be careful about teams rotating in a little bit later and potentially messing up this fight and it becoming not a 2-team fight, but a 3-team fight. Or, if you're North, do you just go for the brave situation and say, look, let's actually just take them out. If we take them out, we've got this whole building to ourselves. As Vibin are under a lot of fire right now. Plenty of explosions outside of this building. And they have just seen there's been a res elsewhere.
One thing that's interesting to me, sorry to cut you off there, is the fact that our first 3 teams, I believe, all land in Fragment, who have been eliminated from this game. So the central landing teams have really struggled to get into a good position, and that sometimes kind of shows the difficulty on the first teams to approach Refinery. When we have those teams over there who might be slightly ahead of them, the Epicenter and Refinery teams, you kind of have to slide down that high ground to low ground. You maybe take your eye off the ball a little bit, thinking we're going to be the first rotating team in here. We should be able to find so we're confident. However, the difficulty with that is those teams are more than aware that you're going to be moving down from there. So an interesting kind of statistic, if you like, to see those 3 teams falling that have been landing in Fragment. But SJP2 currently the opposite end of the building to North. A couple of scout shots with the 3 times are going to back that team down and make them aware. But I think most teams have made their way into a fairly comfortable position at the moment. There is still some fighting, though, going down just to the northeast of No Name, just outside of Fragment East. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if there's any teams going to be fighting for for the meantime, but there's also one team late rotating. You can see at the very top right-hand side of your map, the very northeast, in late towards that silo area, and we'll have to see if they make their way into Refinery. Maybe not the traditional way that a lot of the other teams are having to do so.
Yeah, they're going a little bit off-piste, and I respect it. If they can go unseen, then maybe they could shake things up a little bit. And just go back to your point where you're saying about those teams that are dropping quite centrally. Well, when it's a circle like this that's so close to where they've been dropping, it's almost a little bit tantalizing. Like it's saying to, yep, come on, you can rotate early, you can come to us, you can get into the zone. But actually, they just ended up pushing into teams who were dropping in those locations, and they weren't able to loot up accordingly before doing so. So it almost was too close to them for a rotation, but not close enough so that they could loot up properly. It was quite a sad situation, really, for those teams that did drop centrally. And that's why earlier when you were asking about those teams that do drop centrally, I said it can be quite difficult, not necessarily the pressure on your shoulders, but just with the RNG that comes into it, it's the other teams that makes it very difficult as to how you're going to rotate out of the center of the map. As now Exorcism, they've got the high ground. SJP2 are there as well. And of course, Northwest somewhere or thereabouts in this building. So plenty of teams who are near each other right now, but no one brave enough to take the initial fight.
17 squads remaining, like you mentioned. The Flavor of the Month trying to make their way in. As you can see, they're actually trying to take a fight on the outskirts here, and they are going to be one of the latest rotating teams that we do see. The defensive bombardment's going to come in, but you can also see that interception piling from Watson is going to be eating that up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's going to be Nessie, who are the team who are trying to hold them out at the moment, as they're going to be forced to use that dome as well. And forcing the team to use the dome is absolutely huge because, you know, as soon as that's gone, they've got no cover to work with as they have to make their way towards you. So you're going to see JMW here just lining up some shots and hopefully going to be able to do some damage onto the Gibraltar. Narrowly misses that shot. But Flavor of the Month here in a little bit of a sticky spot, just caught behind this rock and in the eyesight and the line of sight of quite a few teams looking down on them.
So a lot of teams just right on the cusp of this circle right now who are going to have to rotate in, and Taylor has taken some real damage, but at least Pierre is there to hit some shots and maybe back that team up to ensure that they're not going to be pushing on the damage they were able to claim onto Flavor of the Month. There is going to be a down. Gambit have lost a man, or at least have had a man downed. So that means they could be another squad potentially falling here and still struggling to find any success in this tournament. But as I say, that he does get picked back up. So Gambit's still okay, but here comes the push now. Weakness has been smelled out, and now two have gone down. Artico is going to be the last, desperately trying to dodge his way out of this building, and he might just be able to do so. But no, he's going to be chased. He's going to be the last one down. Gambit out early yet again.
And again, it's Exorcism who are just commanding the pace of the game here over at Refinery. That's Gambit again, like you mentioned, out early. Our first three games, I'm pretty sure they've barely got a point on the board so far, Gambit Esports. So a lot for them to think about in this downtime as they watch the rest of this game play out. But something we should mention as well, watching Flavor of the Month just a moment ago, Pierre's big shots there in a compromised position not only allowed the team to get a little bit of space, but also to level up that Evo shield. So if they do get pushed, he's going to have a little bit more to work with for his team. Alliance, another team who are trying to find their way inside of this next circle. And you can see they're trying to be a little bit sneaky about it because they know there is a team in front of them as the pings are going to be going out. But 53 seconds, they have to move a little bit quicker than maybe they would have wanted. A headshot with the flatline is certainly going to help that situation. But damage done to Hackis is also going to mean they're going to have to just back down here as a big grenade comes in as well.
Big grenade is Alliance just back off, heal back up. 37 seconds they've got to actually make a decision as to where they want to move here. There are teams pretty much residing in every spot they want to push towards, so maybe they've sussed out a little bit of information as who's going to be the weakest team to push. As Flavor of the Month trying to do something similar. A lot of ground to cover here. I wonder whether it is going to be a Pathfinder zip to get them to high ground, or whether they're just going to try and crawl their way around the rocks. It's going to be the zip from Pierre. He's just scouting things out at the moment before the other two join them, as Ad Hoc Gaming are in a spot to be a real nuisance for these teams that are rotating in late.
And we're seeing the Hound for the first time on Ad Hoc Gaming as well, something we don't really familiarize ourselves with, but you've seen Complexity having such success with the Hound in the Americas region. Obviously the latest winner of the Super Regional for the Americas with Reptar on the Bloodhound, so good to see maybe some of those ideas translating across the pond from the Americas here to the EMEA region. And we'll have to see if Kuya is going to be able to play it as well. He's been changing about Legends a little bit on this lineup. He's played Watson, he's played Pathfinder, and now, as I say, he finds himself on the Hound. We'll have to see how that plays out here for Ad Hoc.
Well, they were able to pick up a lot of kills in the previous game, and I guess the Bloodhound would have played a big part to that as well. Whereas Alliance, again, under a little bit of fire. Vibin also trying to sneak their way in at the same time. They have been spotted out, but they are going to try and use the portal just to get into a more comfortable position here. A lot of teams still left, and that circle still getting smaller and smaller. Every little minor decision could make or break this game for you. You can see how they're just trying to scout around to see where people are. They don't want to commit to somewhere too soon, just in case someone takes their spot, and then we'll have that little bit of high ground from them. You want to wait as long as you can sometimes, just to ensure that you don't get pushed from behind.
Ad Hoc Gaming making their way through Epicenter at the moment. You can see the Bloodhound scan there as well, giving that information, the passive ability to see those footsteps and when that portal was put up. And then you can see, oh, look at where that circle is going to be ending. You see the Pathfinder beacon, and this is going to be an interesting one here. For a lot of the teams who are up on that high ground, that is a money ended. It's going to be ended just outside of Refinery. So teams that you can see right at the bottom right of your screen, making that rotation in late up on that high ground, and going to be in a pretty good position to work with. And Figvam here are trying to pick off those teams from the high ground here, the spider-like structure in the middle of Epicenter, to make their lives a little bit more difficult. KP is what they're looking for in this situation, but they've also been blessed a little bit with the fact that it's pulled away from Refinery a little bit. So every single team in a position now where they can make that rotation, but I think we are going to see one of those situations again where we are going to see the field cut down from around 15 to 8 or 9 pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this is going to be the first example of it. It's going to be an earlier fight before that rotation is available for those teams. Finalize, lose 2, make that 3, and they're going to be the first to fall in what is going to be the culling of squads in the next 33 seconds. Lazarus don't have to move here. They are in an okay spot. It's probably not a game-winning spot right now, but certainly have the potential to be a real nuisance to those teams who are in Refinery. Ad Hoc Gaming going to be rotating in late from this southeastern side of the map, but they are in a decent spot. They do have a little bit of coverage. They're just probably going to have to take this fight. Otherwise, they might find themselves in a sticky situation.
Yeah, Kuya's going to be moving forward as well as Matafe on the Wraith. Once again, he's been changing between Watson and Wraith, and it's good to see him back. Such mechanically skilled player, as we know, one of the best there is in Europe. And it looks like he swapped armor there, but unfortunately he forgot to pop a battery, so picked up an empty one, and he's going to charge that one back up. And that could have been a little bit hairy, as you say, a little just situations that really can turn the tide of games. And Ad Hoc a little bit fortunate there, and that wasn't one of them, as the Watson ult is going to eat those grenades. But Ad Hoc in a pretty good spot here to work with.
Yeah, they're definitely in a good spot, and they have sightlines on a lot of teams here. Potential kill points for them. Do have utility. They have grenades that they can toss down, and that's going to be a decent stick there. I think, no, actually, it was just the molly that was doing the damage. Never mind me. Either way, Ad Hoc Gaming, they've got the bubble to heal up. Major pushers under a little bit of trouble here, though. They are going to be switching up a couple of armors. Might be able to get the res. They should be able to get the res. And they've got the caustic in prime position to stop people from pushing them too soon.
Flavor of the month involved in a battle here, and you can see it's going to be a team below them. Big 74 with the Mastiff as well, and Taylor with a wonderful angle here to do that damage as Noth now moves in as the Gibraltar to do even more of that damage. Kuya's actually going to be in the kill feed himself, as Flavor of the Month now are going to be in all sorts of trouble, and it's Alliance who are the team who are coming to get involved in this. So Alliance kind of stole those kills away in that situation, and that's all about positioning coming in from this lineup.
Yeah, but now Alliance have lost one. It's just going to be down to 2 of them there. Faves falls as well. Just going to be Hackizaz the last one. He's going to desperately try and escape here with his life. See if he can rat in, but he's just running into player after player. And now he is just a sneeze away from dying, and it is going to be the death for him. Alliance, they get the KP, but they will fall. It's good for them to recognize that they needed to pick up KP, because they probably realized they're not going to be in a game-winning position right now.
So vibing then. Pretty good game for them so far. You can see 3 kills in the hands of Knights. Jay Savage trying to do some damage himself. Gets to finish on those down players. Can he get the kills here as one of the last 2 alive for Lazarus? It's all up to Roger Bodger now to see what he can do as he's up on those silos with the Sentinel in hand. Only 9 shots to work with as well for him, and it looks like he's just playing for placement at this particular point. Unfortunately for them, it looks like they might have had a disconnection in this game as well, so even more pressure on the shoulders of Roger Bodger here to see if he can finish out this game strong for Lazarus. But looking at the kill feed again, and we see Luminosity really have been lighting it up. So if we could go over to Luminosity in just a second, as Roger Bodger is trying to land some big shots and did so, but unfortunately the 2v1 was too much. And they have been picking up kill points, and Vibe, another team who have had a really big game here, making their rush now onto this circle.
Such an open circle as well. It's going to be absolute carnage. Vibin will lose a second. Nice is going to be the last. He goes down as we move over to Cooler. They have plenty of armor to work with, and they're in prime position here, Mark. They've got buildings to work with. Sorry, they've got rocks to work with that they can hide behind, and they can start getting aggressive on these teams.
Hey, anything's a building if you want it to be a building. If you can hide behind it, it works for me. Cooler Esports, though, will get pushed by Ad Hoc Gaming, and what a push that was, taking the initiative in that battle. And then we're now down to our last two teams. Matafe takes a huge amount of damage, and even though they were the aggressors in that situation, Ad Hoc very much on the back foot, and it's Major Pushers who come in to sweep up the goods at the end. They will win your game number 3, and it was Major Pushers with a major push onto Ad Hoc, who made that push count.
Yes, he did. And Major Pushers were in Refinery for so long, and there was a couple of times they were under a little bit of pressure, but having that caustic meant that they were able to stop those teams pushing them for quite some time. And then eventually, when it counted, they pushed out, they got aggressive, they utilized caustic's ultimate ability, so the gas just made life difficult for so many of those teams pushing in, and it was all carnage, as we expected. When it's going to be an open circle like that for the final circle, it's always so difficult. Those split decisions are everything. But quite a slow and steady game for the majority, but then an explosive one to finish things off, which is quite always the way, really, in Apex Legends.
Yeah, I think it was one of those circles as well, end circles, that not a lot of teams were 100% confident on where it was going, and that was why you saw that split again between Epicenter and you saw the split between Refinery. And when we did see that pull away from Refinery, all those teams who had made the decision to move in there, and the Pathfinder teams were a big part of that, of course, kind of ended up having to fight each other to find their way out, and that's why we saw so many teams drop. And those who ended up playing Edge to around Epicenter kind of, moved in pretty happily, and one of those teams was Ad Hoc. Lots of kills on the board for them, as well as a second place finish. But as we all know, if you are the last team to engage when there is 3 teams alive, then you are going to be very successful in Apex Legends, and that was exactly what happened at the end there. Major Pushers, as I say, effective push to close the game out.
And they got so much KP as well. So one of the players had 8 and was the kill leader. So this is going to be a big game for them to climb up the leaderboard. They were just able to kill so many of the teams that were pushing in so late. They were just in prime position to do so. And I was very impressed with what they had to offer. A very difficult rotation for a lot of squads that were kind of towards the southern side of the map. But these things happen, and when you've got 16 matches, it means that you just take it on the chin and you say, okay, well, we were able to pick up X amount of placement points and X amount of kills in a game where we really shouldn't have been picking up too much. And then you move on to the next one, and you know that you will eventually get a game where the circle is going to favor you instead.
We've got one more game on World's Edge to bring you today, and that is going to be coming up just after this break, so don't go anywhere. Game number 4 is just around the corner. Welcome back, you beautiful, beautiful people, to Game 4 of the GLL Masters Summer. Dan, we've had 3 different winners in our first 3 games, but some of the biggest teams that we have in the EMEA region have come to the top. But Major Pushers, one team that we maybe didn't talk about too much coming into this tournament, reminding us of just how good they are.
See, little do you know, everyone, actually off broadcast before Game 3, Mark was like, I think Major Pushers are going to win, and they went and won again. It's almost like he knows everything. Let's take a look at the scoreboard and see how that game looked for people in terms of kill points and whatnot. Jesus Christ! 15 kills for Major Pushers as well as a victory. 27 points in total. Bish Bash Bosh, they will take that. But down on the other side, Nasky, Strafe, and Dull, after their victory, they struggled a little bit. Na'Vi had a somewhat better game because they were at least able to get 2 kills, but they still didn't finish that well in terms of what we know they are capable of. But I guess this entire lobby are capable of great things, Mark.
Yeah, and Gambit Esports, like I mentioned, 3 games out of 3 where we haven't seen them anywhere near the top of the table. And speaking of top of the table, this is how things are looking after match number 3. The total points, and you can see Alliance still on top, but only just as North are just in behind them as well. Major pushes with that huge bomb game, though. Moving up into third place now. 29 points on the board for them. And Nasky, Strafe, and Dale and Ad Hoc kind of rounding things out. But yeah, Gambit Esports at the bottom of the table. Okay. And that, to me, is a shock. It's a genuine shock to see them down there.
They've not even picked up a kill yet. That has not been a fun set of games for them. They've got one game left on World's Edge to try and, well, make up for a very poor start, especially for their standards, as we are going to be dropping in with major pushers who are running that caustic, and it really worked out for them in that game, if I'm completely honest. I love to see when these kind of slightly different selections of legends do work out, and when you can see them utilized in their best way. But Mark, I want to see some of these lower teams who haven't been performing in the early stages start to pick things up in this last game of World's Edge before we get 4 more matches on Kings Canyon.
And Na'Vi again being contested on this drop, and Fragment West has not been a happy home for them at the moment. It's Lava City boys every single time who are trying to take advantage, but this time it looks like Na'Vi are saying, do you know what, boys? We've had enough of you coming in here and sort of tickling us under the armpits for the first few games. We're going to come in here and we're going to boot you in the head. And that's exactly what's happening right now, as Claus is going to eventually finish off that kill with a beatdown. That will be Lava City boys. That's 3-1 now. That's 3-1, but that was conclusive. That was kind of dominant from Na'Vi. That's what I want to see from them.
That is how I deal with most people tickling me under the armpits, actually. Just a swift boot to the head.
Kick him in the head.
Yeah, it seems to be one of the best ways to stop someone tickling you. There you go. Life advice for everyone at home from Onset, and we get an insight of how he deals with things as well. As you can see, it's going to be a very similar
I mean, give him a cuddle.
Yes, right? Of course. Yeah, we know you're a loving human being.
Sorry, look, I apologise for that. I was a little bit too forceful. Arsenal just won the FA Cup. I'm very happy about that. Apex is brilliant. Everything's going well for me today. I apologise, all right? I didn't mean what I said.
You don't need to.
Okay,
you used it in a metaphorical sense, and that's what we're here for. Very similar circle, Mark, to what we just saw. Slightly closer towards Refinery, and maybe going to be a bigger pull towards Refinery as well. But it means that those teams down, dropping in Thermal, Tree, Mirage Voyage, even Lava Fisher are going to have quite the way of rotating across this map, traversing across this map. And maybe, is it a rotation? We've had this discussion before. We probably don't need to get into it.
Dan Gaskin just pulled out a thesaurus from nowhere, like an RKO, and just came out with traverse, and I'm all for it. But just looking at that circle, very similar to what we saw in our previous game, but ever so slightly more leaning towards Refinery. I just want to let everyone know, you can't see me on camera right now, but when I said the word leaning, I definitely leant to the left for some reason. But that means that I think the teams who did rotate in a little bit earlier last time into Refinery are going to be a bit more confident with their rotation this time. They're not going to be second guessing themselves because they are seeing that slightly heavier pull in towards Refinery. So the likes of Nasky, Strafe and Dell, etc., who were trying to get in there early and unfortunately for them kind of got caught off guard by the team who are overlooking them, should have a little bit more confidence that it is going to be pulling there as well as the rest of the lobby. But one team who's not going to like that pull for the second game in a row is Alliance, who obviously dropped down right at the southwestern side of the map. So they're going to have to traverse their way all the way across. I stole your word. What are you going to do about it? We're a duo, so we share things.
And usually things that I say are things that you've said just long enough for you to forget about saying them, that you then think it was actually me that came up with it. So don't worry, I learn a lot from you, Marcus. Alliance, though, are going to be moving on through here, and they need to find some armor. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Mark. They don't really look well equipped right now for any fighting, so maybe that's what these pings are for, just to try and check out a couple more buildings to loot up accordingly before they can rotate through. Outsiders have found themselves in prime position for where this circle likely is going to be finishing, around Refinery, but again, don't have much to work with in terms of their armor, so they need to either just be saying, okay, we are going to completely play for placement here and just hiding away from everyone in the world until we are forced out, or we try and third party someone here at Refinery when we get the chance to do so.
Yeah, a big game for a lot of teams here, as this is the last one on World's Edge before we move over to Kings Canyon today for our final 4 games of day 1 of our grand finals, as Caller Esports are going to be making their move into Refinery here. And you were talking about one team's armor. Well, this one looks pretty good for this team fight, as we see Jules with the purple, you've got Ro with the blue, and you've got Yuki on the purple as well. So it's just a case of maybe getting that damage down and taking advantage of it. Some great shots from height show that armor isn't everything in this game in the team fight. Positioning is so vital as you can rain those shots down.
Decent shot there. A couple of nades to work with as well to try and force out that player, and they're going to have to go straight back through the portal to ensure they survive. Otherwise, that could have been a bit of a hairy situation. Cooler Esports, even though they do have the armor that you were talking about, Mark, it's just the positioning that I'm a little bit concerned about, because there is a team right above them, and also potentially a team could be below them soon if they're not too careful. This is not really a room you want to be stuck in, just because it is so easy to be pushed from both angles. So I would imagine at some point they might try and reposition themselves ever so slightly. Lazarus are under fire, and Ida's going to be the last one. They are going to be going down and get completely wiped here. And that is going to be a shame for Lazarus Esports, as we've now lost 2 squads. We're down to just 18, but Third Impact do survive it just about.
Yeah, they're going to get the armor swaps as well, and they will get the res. And unfortunately for them, SJP2 smell blood, and they're going to be moving in onto that location of Third Impact. The question is, can they get those swaps off in time, and can they get those heals to get them back up to a full complement? And it looks like they have managed to get away from that situation. So Lazarus out and Lava City Boys, the first 2 teams to drop, and we've caught both of those fights. So shout out to the observers as well for keeping an eye on this lobby and doing a great job of navigating around where those fights are going to be. And it looks like another one's going to be going down here, as Na'Vi, full of confidence after their win against Lava City Boys, are now moving in, using that totem to get that death protection. But the question is, can they get enough damage down? Can they get a knock before they have to re-engage?
The portal is there, but the Arcstar has done a little bit of damage. Third Impact are going to lose Jazz. So Na'Vi, they smelt blood, and at least they've got 1 knock, and they should be able to get 1 kill for it. So that's kill point on the board for them. And now they can loot up and maybe get a little bit of extra armor to work with. But SJP2 were already on the scent of Third Impact, and now maybe we'll try to look to take down Na'Vi at the same time. But Na'Vi have scampered. They caught wind of it, and they've ensured they've been able to get out of dodge just before SJP2 came in and did any real damage.
Aggressive portal coming in here from Denze as well. He's going to have his shields knocked down. They won't quite be cracked, but pretty close to it, as they're going to play this back wall here. And having that gold armor, of course, means it's only going to take a couple of shield cells for him to work with. And look at that from Balonji. He just watched the whole team walk past him. So Balonji has just done a magical thing there by playing so quiet, so stealthily. And now the Revenant has managed to pick up one of the banners at least. Can he get Zekia's as well? And can he get away with being able to survive here and find a respawn beacon? That's what his next task will be. But sometimes doing nothing is the best play, and making no noise whatsoever is exactly what he did there to get out of dodge.
Must have oiled up those robotic legs so they're not making any little squeaks as he was crouching down, as SJP2 still showing this raw aggression, Mark, not allowing anyone to have a good time. Big shots coming out from the Mastiff, and there's another player there as well. Tax for 84. Is he going to be able to get a second? No, he doesn't need it. He gets the teammates' help, and that's going to be North falling in 18th spot. So unfortunately for North, they just weren't able to survive in this building, even though they'd Watsoned up. SJP2 just had no respect, and they dashed straight in.
Denze, big shots with the Mastiff there. Just huge damage being dealt from close range. And the Wraith player really starting to heat up here in this game as well, using that Watson ultimate that was left behind by the team he eliminated to get a few more extra ticks on his shields as he popped that shield cell as well. North have been eliminated though. A bit of a surprise to see them go out so early here. And Lazarus and Lava City Boys now have a partner in the Elimination Chamber. That's what it's officially called now, by the way.
Elimination Chamber. Is there a title as well? Is there a little belt that we get to work with?
Yeah, I'll work on it.
You'll work on it, good. Yeah, North were the team that got pushed by SJP2 there, and they unfortunately just couldn't escape. None of them were able to get out. They had to take the fight, but they were just stuck behind those boxes. As Nessie right on the edge of the circle, and it looks like they're having a little look around to see if there's any rats. They must have caught wind of someone being there or thereabouts, and you can see with the observer view, there were 2 players just to the other side of that building, and Nessie seeing this as a good opportunity to get some free KP potentially. And here comes the spray damage from them, as the 2 players are just going to be stuck in zone. And well, Graceful's had enough of it. He wants to go in and he wants this KP for his own.
Yeah, Nines is going to be in trouble here. Just trying to get those heals off, but that zone really is starting to chunk as well. It is the second zone, so a bit more damage than the first. And the more resources they use up, the easier this job is going to be here for Nessie. They just have to be patient in this situation, wait for those heals to run out, and then maybe make that push themselves. You can see Graceful's trying to move up on them a little bit here and get those angles. He's actually going to loot this box as well to make his life a little bit more easy, and still some potential meds away from those 2 players who are trying to play this one as slow as possible. But difficult situation for the 2 players trapped inside this building, because Nessie at the moment, well, it's the Loch Ness Monster. And I can tell you, the Loch Ness Monster is very scary, and he lives on top of that hill.
Flavor of the month. Just trying to tag some players in the distance that were trying to pick up that essentially what would have been free KP. Turns out in the end it wasn't, because they were able to dodge their way out. But Flavor of the Month just going to have to opt to leave this one now, I feel, because Circle coming in 30 seconds, and they're not quite in the safe zone just yet. It does feel like the way they are consistently looking to hit these shots, that they do feel like a kill point is there or available, and it looks like the rest of the lobby feels the same, because everyone's just taking a pop at these teams that are rotating in a little bit late. Especially those who have the high ground and have the scouts to work with.
Yeah, battery going to be dropped here by Nook as well for a teammate, and you can see the idea here for Finalize, just trying to pick off these players, rotating through Fragment. But the thing about rotating through Fragment is there's a lot of cover for you to work with, and you can make that wide rotation, which is exactly what Vibin are trying to do at the moment, who have somehow managed to get out of that sticky situation that they were in. As I say that, I'm so sorry I have cursed you, as Nines will be taken down. Nessie just couldn't get the finish initially, but it looks like now that they're going to find him. You can see the last player alive here. Can they finish this epic battle between the two that's been going on for quite a long time? And the one problem is, the longer this goes on, the later the rotation is going to be here for Nessie, so not too much time needs to be spent on chasing down this last player. Now they're coming under pressure, from Vibin, who are up on that height.
But at least you're a Pathfinder, which means you can zip up and away, and a little slide as well to boot, and now allows him just to heal up. And looks like Nessie are going to comfortably escape with their lives, but that's just for now. They still have a little bit further to go, and there are several teams in residence here around Epicenter. At least they're being the right kind of aggressive, though. Putting shots into the back of people is... Oh, is this another rat cam? It is. Hello.
Slovo's just standing there. It's like, what's up?
Not even crouching. Is Ballon G?
No poetry today. I made
no.
No poetry today. I'm sorry, everyone. If you want poetry, I'm sure there's more of you that don't than do, but it's not happening today. I'm sorry. It's finals day, right? Serious biz.
It's technically finals weekend, so if you were going to do it on any day, I think a Saturday would be more appropriate than a Sunday.
It's not happening. It's not happening. You can't talk me into it. Anyway, LG.
Look, yeah, I tried.
LG looking pretty good at the moment. One team who isn't looking too healthy is going to be Na'Vi, as they're coming under fire here, and I think that's Alliance that they're going up against. The right hook is going to land, but Faiji will be taken down, so Alliance managed to clutch up in that situation and take down Na'Vi. Alliance, who, just remember, have had to move their way across the entire map here on World's Edge to find themselves anywhere near this end circle, have managed to do so, and look at the loot they've managed to pick up along the way. You've got an Evo shield here on Vace, which is only 68 damage from being fully maxed out. IPM with the purple as well, and Hackis with a gold to work with. So you have to say that Alliance looking pretty good here in this situation.
Yeah, can't really complain about that. One of the better inventories that we've seen out of all of these teams so far. Still 15 squads left, as this next circle is going to be closing in 1 minute and 10 seconds. Accelerants are there for Alliance, which of course are very important as you get to the late game. It's not often we get to see really the actual inventory of the teams and see what they're carrying in terms of utility, in terms of like grenades and whatnot, but certainly those ultimate accelerants can be so important. And you can see all the pings yet again for where Alliance are trying to push to. Still a lot of teams who haven't rotated into this circle yet. A lot of separation. Some rats there or thereabouts too. But a lot of teams already in Refinery. And that is not going to be a fun place to be later on in the game. Every angle seems to be covered. So if it does end up this circle moving towards Refinery, which is what a lot of people are hedging their bets on, if you're rotating in late, it's going to be a very difficult time for you.
Well, here comes Nessie. And they're making their way, their approach, their assault onto Refinery here. And they have to do so with 15 seconds left and the zone just closing behind them. It looks like they have managed to find a sneaky little spot that they do want to play. Those silos will be in. I imagine there will be a team below them here. And it's just a case of if they're going to be spotted out or if there is actually a team that is below them. You see the Wraith portal. It looks like that team has actually left. So they will be able to work their way into this position. Lots of cover from the height of Refinery. And I mean, that's a pretty big spot for them to have available to take at this stage of the game.
Still made me laugh when you were like, here comes Nessie. It's just not something like... There's been a lot of things in this tournament, Mike, I've heard him say that I would never expect you to say.
Asking if you remember the Simpsons episode with the Loch Ness Monster, like ages, and I was literally like, you know, the vain guy, like sitting there going like I was like that, but now I've said it, so I ruined it anyway.
I do remember that episode if it's worth anything at this point, and I wonder whether
it's good
Top Gaming are aware of Nessie, where any of these teams are aware of others, because there's so many squads left, Mark, but not much gunfire at the moment. Silence over the battlefield here on World's Edge. As a reminder, our last time on World's Edge today before we move over to Kings Canyon for 4 matches. And that circle is going to shift just east of Refinery. So that team that is in the silo are actually in a decent spot right now.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of playable areas around that silo as well. You've got the middle ground, you've got the bottom, and of course you've got the ultimate height as well if you have a Pathfinder to zip yourself up there. Cooler now trying to hold off all these teams who are trying to push in towards them. The issue for them is they're going to have to move as well. You can see the situation in the overhead in the top left-hand side of your screen. They need to make that move. They do have a little bit of time to play with, though. So it looks like they're going to take their time to maybe try and pick up some KP on these teams who are rotating in late. But Cooler with some decisions to make as AHG Kuya is going to be taken down by Rowe from the team that we were just watching. Cooler Esports finalized now making their assault and making their move forward. And that's a big thermite grenade as well. That's going to do so much damage. And look how easy that is for Bryn just to clean up the damage that he instigated. The Gibraltar is the last man alive, and he is not longed for this earth. What a push that was from Finalized. Absolutely deadly in how they move forward.
Yeah, just flawless there. Great execution in the end as Ad Hoc Gaming fall. So do Outsiders. They go down just as I'm speaking. And elsewhere, still fights here happening in Refinery. Cooler Esports have been able to down 2. They push in to get the 3rd. There is going to be the wipe on Nasuke, Strafe, and Dell. They go down in 13th place. Now Cooler Esports can take residency here, just on the edge of Refinery. They can loot up, get a little bit more ammo, maybe get some grenades to work with as well. But Nessie, they're having a little bit of a peek here, and maybe they can ruin the days as they take down 1. And they've got so much armor to work with here, Mark.
Yeah, 12 squads remaining here, and Nessie needs to finish this fight quickly. And they managed to do so because there are going to be third parties around. There are going to be teams who are looking to get involved. And here they come. Graceful's going to be taking a chunk of damage. It was JMW who managed to get the armor swap off, though, so he can hold these angles for them. But they've been forced to retreat now. And the team below them, I believe, is Cooler Esports, who are still in that position to potentially push. So you've got 3 teams stacked up against each other here in this small area. And it's because all of these teams have been forced into this position with just 20 seconds left on that ring.
Yeah, finalized though. It looks like they want some of this now because they do have the high ground. They are going to be above them. The armor swap's there, but the armor swap is not good. Go back, go back. Changes it to blue. Does have the Phoenix kit, but it looks like they're worried that maybe time is against them here. Arc Stars go out just to maybe help initiate this push. It's going to be a red Evo shield. They're going out, and that's a big shot from JMW, actually. But here comes the rest of Finalized just to ensure that no crazy shenanigans are going to happen. There's more getting involved here, Mark.
Yeah, Alliance said, we fancy a piece of this. If you're going to fight, we want to get involved as well. This isn't your fight, this is everybody's fight. But they're going to have to back down because IPN got absolutely rocked as he tried to enter that door as the Gibraltar. So they'll be down to a 2-man, and I don't think they'll be able to get the res in that situation either. Figvam has spotted out Alliance in this time and are now putting some shots down themselves. So difficult situation for Alliance to find themselves in as Figvam are trying to land down their shots to get those knocks.
And that next circle moves even further east, ever so slightly on the edge of the silo. So the one team in the silo is going to be okay. Is Finalized under more pressure. Big 72, big 42 is going to help with his teammates get the down. And then the retreat comes out. But there's so much to walk through. There's gas, there's fire, there's absolutely anything you can throw at these teams right now is in the way. But they have been able to just get away and heal up and reevaluate this situation.
Yeah, this part of the building is starting to look more like a Dragon Force song than it is an Apex Legends game, but Ranches is managing to get the revive onto Cleve here, so they will have their caustic available in this end game, which we always talk about being so huge. And Alliance, Vapes is the last man alive here. IPM will be taken down, and Vapes, as the Pathfinder, has just got to try and survive for a few more seconds. Is there an armor swap here for him to work with? Yes, there is. So he's got some extra HP here, and he can buy himself a little bit more time, and Alliance might be able to squeeze out a few extra placement points.
He's going to get a med kit off. Always dangerous just because of the audio cues, but the Wraith is going to run right past him. Does have eyes on him, and he has an Arc Star as well. This could be pretty damaging. Could pick up potentially a little bit of KP if he does this right. Will get the stick onto the Wraith, and he'll get the down. Will he go for the kill? Yes, he does. An extra bit of KP. Vaves has done his job here. Even if he goes down, that's just extra points on the board for him.
Here comes Figvam then, taking ultimate high ground up on the top of this silo. They will be inside of that next circle, and they will also have the satellite image of everything that is going on below them. And what is going on below them? Absolute carnage as we see another team going to be eliminated here. We're down to 7 squads. Figvam coming under some shots themselves, but SJP2, they got a cozy little spot to work with here. And if they take their time, and if they play this one right, they could be in a winning position.
Outside, it's just death everywhere else. Flavor of the Month are in so much trouble right now. Just so much burning happening. But Pierre's going to be able to heal up, it looks. And maybe they could reset here. But no, there's no time to reset because SJP2, they heard the nonsense going on outside and straight away dived on that team, taking us down to just 4. And I'd say SJP2 in one of the better positions right now, Mark. They've got 2 gold armors, they've got a purple, and they can hide for a little bit longer until this next circle moves.
So LG still involved. Gambit Esports, who I said needed a game here, they're still involved as well. Third Impact still involved as well. And one of those is a solo player on Third Impact. It's the Revenant as well. And that's Balon G. We talked about that huge play he made earlier on in the game to stay alive as that team bottled past him. Well, look what it's turned into here for Third Impact.
If he wins, can we at least get a poem out of you, or is that not a possibility?
How many times do I have to tell you no?
It means yes in my eyes.
You're like a child who dad says no, so you go and ask mum. It's not going to happen. Dan, I'm sorry.
You are both my mum and my dad, so that's perfectly acceptable. But Gambit actually probably have the better position right now. I thought SJP2 might have been in the prime, but just looking at the high ground that's available for Gambit means that they can get these shots off. They're not aware of the one player from TI to their
He's
right.
Down.
As he does fall.
He's just been taken down.
It's down
been taken down by a frag grenade from LG. So LG, as you can see, on the second level here, just above the Gibraltar bubble is the Gibraltar Ultimate, is going to be coming in, and LG are going to be forced to play this as late as possible. But look at this little ledge stand that they've managed to find. This is huge for them.
Huge ledge, but there's a lot of teams above them just zipping away. But LG, they do a little bit of damage, but all 3 of them fall. As SJP2 are still inside here, Mark.
Gambit Esports. It's going to be Leogri who is the last man alive, and this surely is going to be the end of the game. And look at this. Gamesmanship coming in from Gambit. They realise that KP are so vital here in our finals to decide not to give it to SJP2, but SJP2 will happily collect that champion's banner at the end of our final games here on World Edge. And I mean, what an end that was. So many teams just flying all about the place, the different elevations causing all sorts of problems, but SJP2 managed to capitalise on all the carnage and come out on top.
Yeah, just recognizing there was going to be that tiny little segment of the silo that was still going to be in the next circle meant that they could put the Wraith portal out, wait for everyone else to kind of destroy one another, take down each other's shields, and then they were able to pop out and get the victory in the end. So a decent performance from SJP2. Gambit, though, picking things up as they quite rightly needed to after not having any kills before that game, after 3 matches prior. So at least they've been able to step up now. But that's World's Edge done for the day. It means we move across to Kings Canyon for our last 4 games of today, and then more World's Edge will come tomorrow. But I'd say that we kind of saw what we expected, like a lot more of a solid game, or solid games out of teams than comparatively to the games we saw in the last chance qualifier, where some things were a little bit all over the place and maybe caught us off guard. That was more standard meta and maybe what we expected.
Yeah, one thing that is all over the place, though, is the battle that's going on between Lava City Boys and Na'Vi at the start of every single game. Neither team wants to back down. Both teams trying to ego each other at this point for that spot, but they don't have to do that anymore because we're heading over to Kings Canyon. It'd be quite funny if they decided to land on the same spot as we do move over to our second map. But this play from Denze was absolutely huge. The massive shots just absolutely dominated, and this push was about as clean as you can get in Apex Legends. What a thermite that was, and the R9 shots were just as good here from Bryn.
So good indeed, and like some of the pushes that we saw from teams, the execution was absolutely flawless. You can tell the chemistry is there for the majority, if not all of these teams now at this point with how much they've played together. It means that they can just push in and like get so much comms at the right time. This was a big KP as well, just being able to pick up that extra point for Alliance. Vave's doing very well to survive and rat out, as did other teams. And then this was the elevation from Gambit. They had the high ground in the end, which they probably thought was a good spot, but it was SJP2 who just outwitted them ever so slightly by waiting for that very last moment to pop out.
Yeah, big game though for Gambit. Like we mentioned earlier, really hadn't performed at all. As they say, like points on the board was not something they had coming into that final game there on World's Edge. So they needed that performance. And as I say, it kind of sets them up now for Kings Canyon. A little boost of confidence. You get a couple of games where you start rolling on Kings Canyon. It really can change the leaderboards. And just remember, this is a 2-day grand finals here. This isn't just a 1-day thing. So we're going to come back after a little bit of an extended break now, just to give the players a few moments to get refreshed. It's going to be a 20-minute break. So if you want to go and make a drink and food, I suggest you do so. I'm going to do exactly the same. But we'll be back. And when we are, of course, we'll be moving over to Kings Canyon for our final 4 games of the day. So we'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody, and hopefully you're refueled and ready to go now as we're about to move into our second set of games today. And we're moving, of course, over to Kings Canyon for the second set, like I mentioned, for our grand finals for the EMEA region. Dan, we've already seen World's Edge. That is done and dusted. 4 different winners. And I'm excited to see what the leaderboards look like after that, because I think that a lot of teams have kind of been sharing the points on World's Edge.
They have, yeah. I mean, teams who won also then had like a poor game and then dropped points as well. So no one's really been able to get too far away from one another. And then we've also seen teams opting not to give kill points to other teams because they know how closely contested it is at the top of the leaderboards right now. A team like North, who might not have had the best of games in games 4, they were there or thereabouts in the first 3 games. Even though they weren't getting the victories, they were still picking up decent placement points and decent kill points as well, which means it is quite tight at the top of the table. And it means that even going into these 4 games, let alone into tomorrow's 8 games, I still can't really pinpoint who is going to be the leader going into tomorrow.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how these next 4 games turn out as well. As I say, we move over to Kings Canyon now, so a little bit of change of pace, and we're going to see some more aggressive comps, I'm sure, as well, as we see teams trying to rack up those kill points for maybe trying to close the gap a little bit, even here on day 1, even though we do have, of course, the 8 games tomorrow to round things out. You don't want to be in that position where you're going into tomorrow, like we mentioned earlier, where you're kind of out of touch with first place, out of touch with first 3, out of touch with those money spots. So for a few teams, I feel like they might go for it a little bit earlier than we expect here.
I'd like to think so. I'd like to see them do that. We'll have a look at the scoreboard now to see how that might affect certain people going into these next set of games. Certainly it is going to be very different for them. This was match 4's scoreboard, so SJP2 picked up the victory alongside 12 kill points. It does seem like for the majority of games today, the team that has won also has had quite a lot of kills to go alongside it, so it means they've been able to get quite a healthy game total to push them up the leaderboards. Gambit had their first big game. They were on 0 points before this, but they've now been able to find themselves at 15, so they've done well. Whereas, as I was saying, at the bottom side, North, they didn't have such a good game after 3 previous good ones. Outside was also struggling. Naske, Strafe, and Dull also not picking up some points either, which means as we go to the total leaderboards, this is how it looks, Mark.
Yeah, Alliance on top and finalized. I want to give those guys a shout out. Some 4 fantastic games from them so far on World's Edge. Kind of going under the radar a little bit, but no longer, as they're only just a few points behind Alliance, who are holding down that first place spot and slaying out as well. Look at that, 23 kills for finalized. So leading the lobby in kill points, decent placement points to go alongside it, and no surprise to see them up there as we move into our game of 5 now. The first one here on Kings Canyon, and we're going to be jumping aboard with SJP2, our winners from our last game on World's Edge.
Yeah, and I do wonder how many people will kind of switch comps. Certainly from like if we learn anything from the LCQ, some people kind of waited until that match 5 or match 6. So in this instance, it might be match 7 and match 8, and just kind of get a feel with Kings Canyon, with a composition that you've been playing throughout World's Edge, something that maybe you're a little bit more comfortable with, and then shift things up depending on how the lobby is playing and how quick the lobby is, how aggressive people are being. But certainly, for the most part, we are going to see people at least attempt to try and stick with what they're comfortable with.
Well, SJP2 coming under a little bit of early fire here in sort of mid-river area, just outside of bunker. Now they're actually going to get aggressive, and I think it's one of those things where SJP2 want to assert their dominance onto this drop spot. They've also forced the Gibraltar bubble as well, which has kind of given Enze a little way to get out of trouble, as we now see his teammate Seaback moving in with the Gibraltar bubble of his own. Some nice shots here with the Eva 8 as well, and it's going to be finalized who they're actually challenging. So an interesting start here. 2 of the teams who are at the top of the leaderboards, or putting big points on the board on World's Edge, engaging in an early battle here for supremacy on Kings Canyon.
Yep, and that's going to be them out as well in 20th spot. And that seems to be happening quite a lot at the moment. Teams who are having good games, they will also have a bad game straight after that good game. It seems to be a little bit of a curse, but respect to SJP2 for getting aggressive and for pushing and asserting their dominance on this drop spot, as you say. As now they're going to have a little move across, see if they can get loot comfortably elsewhere in the destroyed cascades, which they should be able to do so. It doesn't look like anyone is too close to them, so a little bit more loot for them to work with here, and a beacon to boot. So now they can get info on where this circle is going to be heading towards, and they are just on the edge of it. Bunker is pretty much dead center at the moment, and all these teams on the western side of the map are going to be in a good spot to get to the circle.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing here is what side of bunker is it going to pull? Because then you're looking at those two choke points, one to the north and one to the south to move across if you choose the wrong side. Have seen some finishes just outside of the west side of bunker, as well as in bunker town, as well as the other side. So teams are going to have to make some pretty big decisions on how this wants to go. And obviously holding down bunker is going to be key to that if you can control the entirety of the center of that zone. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. One team who are looking to not see how things play out and get a little bit aggressive is going to be Third Impact, still on the Revenant Crypto combination, and they had a lot of success with it. So we'll see how it plays out here on Kings Canyon as well.
They did have a lot of success. And I think that other teams might try and follow them if they see Third Impact pick up a decent amount of points in this game. Certainly kill points. I mean, placement isn't necessarily guaranteed when you are playing that comp. It's a little bit harder to hold down the fort, per se. As, well, speaking of holding down forts, bunker has been acquired by Lazarus, but they are running to the other side of it just in case they're being chased, and chased they are, but they've been able to take the high ground, do have some grenades just to back that team up a little bit, but they're also trying to loot at the same time. Armor isn't fantastic, but I guess on Kings Canyon in general, loot is always a bit iffy, depending on which areas you're going to be dropping.
Yeah, we did see that buff to the loot. However, as you say, sometimes World's Edge is a little bit more rewarding than Kings Canyon. So Na'Vi, who are running the same composition as well. So we're going to see two teams running the most aggressive composition that we have in Apex Legends at the moment. However, no ultimates available for Na'Vi to use by the looks of things. We're going to see the silence onto the window as well, allowing them a way to get back into position. And that's something that you can use the Revenant for as well. You can use that Q, the silence, to actually be a little bit defensive, as you can block off those areas to retreat to and stop those pushes coming in.
Well, Nessie, they're going to have to back off ever so slightly. Graceful's going to be able to heal up. Gold armor to work with, so they've been able to get a decent amount of loot. And it's whether they're going to choose to get aggressive and take advantage of the decent armor that they have to work with here. It's all well and good trying to be aggressive, but when you're going up against another team who kind of knows you're coming, they will just get out of dodge and make it difficult for you to actually fight them, get into those awkward spots, so that if you do take the fight, you are at risk of being third-partied. As North also have eyes at this point here.
A lot of teams here around Bunker Town or High Desert, whatever one you want to be calling it. And this is where we saw the end circle that Na'Vi managed to pull out of the bag, I do believe, or they'll be hoping it will be very similar. That huge point game they had to survive in the LCQ and make their way through to our grand finals today. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell moving through the pit as well. And we're going to have to go across the Oasis towards High Desert and get into that circle. But a lot of early rotators here means that there isn't going to be too much real estate to play with, as they do actually get a care package dropping their way. And be interesting to see what the gold item was in that. Didn't look like it was too busy for them, but we're going to be able to get some loot and get out of dodge once again. Looks like they might be setting up to hold this choke to the north and where they think this is going to be finishing. Sometimes if you can't get the position that you're looking for, you've got to look for that secondary third position, and this is one of those.
Yeah, if you can get into this choke and at least get yourself into a comfortable spot where you don't feel like a team is going to come from either way, then you are in a great spot. But at the moment, with how this circle is, they could get pushed from both directions, so they do need to be a little bit careful, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. They had 2 games of little success after their victory. So they'd like, I'm sure, to get back on the leaderboard again and start picking up some points. As Nessie are going to throw down a little bit of utility now, start to nade the team that is below them. The Crypto ult did come out, so it looks like there's going to be some sort of aggression below them. I wonder if there's another team also involved in this. Yeah, as soon as you see that Crypto ult, you've got to assume that there is going to be a team getting somewhat aggressive.
Yeah, that Crypto didn't connect, so I think you make a great point there, and I wonder if there's a team underneath them here, and I think that's what Nessie is actually trying to check here, the 2 teams that were engaged, and if there's an opportunity for them to move in as that third party. So, that impact, no surprise to see them using that totem once again on the Revenant to try and push onto this team that is currently trapped in the sewer tunnel going in towards runoff, and looks like Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are that team, so they're going to have to retreat a little bit here. They're going to have to back up, but it looks like Strafe is actually getting super involved in a battle himself, and that little slide is going to save them because there was a thermite heading straight their way, and now they're coming under fire, so they've got to back up this position. Even though they've got the damage done, they've got to reset this fight, get those heals off, and it looks like Dell's moving into position here to try and just hold this other team back so they can do so.
It was Outsiders they ran straight into, and at least they were able to get one down and maybe just catching Outsiders off guard a little bit. It looked like Outsiders heard the the fight was happening through the pipe and they decided to have a peek at just the wrong time. And now without the banner, it means the outsiders are just going to have to rely on the two of them to try and survive to the late game here. It's going to be a wide rotation for them to try and avoid any more confrontation. Whereas Vibin, well, here comes the crypto ult. As the rest of the team are going to burst in, and it's interesting. Just taking a little bit of damage yourself just to try and help the team. As he was right underneath the rest of them there, but the damage that he's taken has actually meant that he's been able to get taken down there, and Joke is also falling too. Got to be very careful now here, do Vibin.
Wraith Portal will go down to try and get them out of that situation. Joke's going to have to make his way there, but that's the third team we see running this composition here in our EMEA Grand Finals. The team that's on their tails is going to be Ad Hoc Gaming, playing the same composition that we saw them on World's Edge. The Bloodhound in the hands of Kuya as Knights tries to jump back in to have a little look there. And again, that Gold Prowler, one of those pickups, the guaranteed pickups you can find in one of those underground vaults being put to use. But for now, he's going to be playing a solo game. It's going to be a lonely, lonely road for him. He doesn't have any banners to work with as well, and it looks like he knows this. It's going to be a silent, slow, tiresome walk for him towards that circle, and maybe just towards a little cozy corner.
Yeah, that corner doesn't look particularly cozy, though. Very vulnerable.
Horrible, doesn't it?
That one
Jagged.
looks a little bit better. Speaking
That's
of corners,
cozy.
yeah, that's very cozy. And you got some friends alongside you as well, which is always good. Lazarus still in bunker and still having this same fight. This fight feels like it's been going on throughout the entirety of this match, which pretty much it has. But that means that a lot of resources have been wasted throughout this battle. A lot of ammo would have been used. I wonder who's going to be brave enough to actually try and make something of it. Major pushes are going to be on the lower side of this battle. They did manage to get one of the players very weak there, but I think we have a clear indication of how these teams are going to approach this, that despite the fact they got one of these players weak, they didn't push it.
Yeah, Ida ended up with more holes than a nice Swiss cheese in that particular exchange, but he's managed to get his heels back up, and now they're going to make that aggressive push. Major pushers living up to their name as the Prowler shots are ringing off. That's going to be two shields that have been cracked. The only problem is it's like a spider's web in front of them of Watson fences, so pushing onto their position is going to be almost impossible. Even though they got that damage done, it's going to give them the time to get this reset, get those heels off, and fight again.
Cooler under a little bit of fire elsewhere, but now here come Major pushers taking down those Watson fences. Ranches has to back off here because he's taken some damage, but that is now the chance for the other two to push in and get aggressive. But now we're going to have to see the caustic back off as well. Maliwan says, no, I don't fancy this one. And this is a really tough fight for them to take, Mark, because it is very much high ground versus low ground.
Well, Major pushers by name, Major pushers by nature. They've tried this twice now, and sometimes 3 is the magic number. So we'll have to see if they try once again. But Cooler Esports down to just one player now, as Jules will be the solo on the Wraith. As you can see, Yuki has been taken out of the game alongside his teammate. Major pushers now watching their back, and they do have that caustic as well to get those traps down. So they should be more than aware if a team does try and push them. But the last thing you want to do is give the team who is above them that opportunity to return the favor that they've been trying to do for the entire game and push on to their position. SJP2 now also involved in a battle, and as Ring 2 is about to close here down, 19 squads still remaining in this game, so no surprise to see a lot of engagements going down. Yeah,
I think that's going to change soon. I mean, there's actually a lot of rats that are still alive in this game, which is why that squad total looks healthier than it probably is, as Kinsko is going to just try and dodge away here. Does have the support of the rest of the team, and they are able to get inside and heal up. Denze needs to make sure he survives, which he will. As Jules finally taken down means Cooler will fall and be our second squad eliminated from the game. And for SJP2, you can see they're just scouting. I think they think there is going to be a team coming from this little choke point here in pit, but for the moment, they're going to have to think about their next rotation, as Nasky, Strafe, and Dell have also found a little bit of an engagement here, and they've been able to down one, but they lose one of their own as Nasky goes down, but there is the wipe, and it's going to be third Impact Mark who fall. And one of our first Revenant squads go down.
So we've still got 2 left in the game, I do believe. But as you say, the first Revenant team 2-4 in the game. And Nasty, Strafe, and Down now are going to be inviting the third party. The audio cues were heard. The fighting and the screams were heard as well by SJP2. And they're looking to add a little bit more punishment to Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. The only problem is Nasky, Strafe, and Dell actually have a big armor advantage here, but they are more than aware that they could potentially get sandwiched by another third party. So trying to get those heals off, Nasky's actually going to be really struggling here. He doesn't have any meds to work with. He's only got the one cell on the inventory, so he's just trying to stay alive, and hopefully his teammates are in position to do the damage, and the third party is coming, and it's Luminosity Gaming who are involved here. They get one knock onto Nasky, and now it's going to be the Q out from the Wraith as Sanya comes in on the Gibraltar, lands a few shots with the wingman. Can he get the finish? Not at the moment. Sanya now last person alive, but manages to win that fight. However, how long can he survive here? I believe this might be a 1v1. Look at those wingman shots as well to take this player down to 1 HP. Moves in with the Eva, and somehow LG have come out of that on top.
I mean, incredible fight, really. And a very scary 1v1 when you're in it, but the wingman shots were enough to provide him with the confidence to push up with the Eva 8. As we still have this confrontation in bunker. At this point, it's just become a little bit of a yelling war rather than an actual shooting match. Just occasionally they go and throw a couple of rocks at them and yell bad words and hope that they can encourage them down.
You know when you have the two neighbours who don't get on, but neither of them will actually take any action, so it's like just passive aggressiveness.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like tuts over the fence, or like, God, look at the length of their grass. Do you know what I mean? They haven't cut that in weeks, God, but loud enough that they hear it. This is essentially what's going on right now. We are going to see that ring pull as well, and it does look like it's going to be to the east of bunker for now, so a lot of those teams who are like Alliance are going to have to make that difficult rotation now across those Golden Sands areas of Kings Canyon. But pretty good armor to work with here for Alliance, and top of the leaderboards at the moment, and here's some KP for them.
It's going to be Flavor of the Month losing Noth. And it means it's just Pierre left on his own. Charge Rifle and Mastiff to work with, but does have purple armor and is a Pathfinder, so there is always potential for a big game from him as a rat. Ad Hoc Gaming now under a little bit of fire, going to have to back off. It's going to be Alliance on the other side as well. Also could do some real damage now. R99 and P2020 available. I love that particular loadout, if I'm being completely honest.
I think it's Hacky Sylvace absolutely loves the Hammer Point P2020. Like, he's so good with it. It just absolutely shreds those shields. And really does do a lot of damage when you switch to it as well. The flesh damage is absolutely crazy. So, no surprise to see him running that double light combination, as Ad Hoc Gaming are now going to be trying to heal up themselves, as LG are going to be involved in a battle with SJP2, and it looks like it's going to be lost here. So SJP2 will finish off Luminosity, I believe. That will be another squad eliminated. I'm not sure if one of them managed to get away, but pretty sure that LG managed to clean that up now, as Denze's now going to just have a little peek around the corner and make sure there's not a couple of players. And look, it's finally ending! Or will it end? The epic battle between Major Pushers and Lazarus continues. It's still going, and finally Major Pushers will win, and then immediately get third partied. No, they don't. They managed to. For a second there, I thought they were immediately getting third partied. But as I say, we get the final chapter in the trilogy, and it's Major Pushers. Third time's the charm. I'm saying it's third time because we only saw it 3 times. I reckon it was 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's been
double figures
all game. They've been there. As Alliance now, Vapes is going to be the last remaining player. Has to back off. Does have the red Evo armor, but is surrounded by players. Tries to do some real damage with the R99, but it's not going to be enough. Ad Hoc Gaming will come out on top there. And now we're down to 13 squads. Pierre got eliminated elsewhere, so Flavor of the Month go down. Knight also falls. And new kill leader, it's going to be Matafe. Ad Hoc Gaming are doing some real damage here with this Bloodhound. They're just getting aggressive on all these teams. They gain so much information with the scans that he provides. And look at the damage that's coming down from these R99s as well.
It's Lava City Boys who are the team on the receiving end of this damage as well. And Clashay here having to loot up while he has this moment, and the Gibraltar bubble is available to force Ad Hoc Gaming back, and it looks like they will be able to do so, but just for now, because Ad Hoc Gaming have decided to try and get a little bit closer to that rotation, a little bit closer to that zone, whereas Lava City Boys have still got quite a distance to travel in the next 20 seconds or so. So smart decision making there from Ad Hoc, deciding to play for the end game a little bit more because they've already got some of those kill points in the bag. So placements, the more they go up there, and the more opportunities as those teams rotate in to pick up a few more KP, a safer place to play.
Yeah, and even though they are an aggressive side and they do want to take these fights, they don't also want to provide too much information to other teams, as yes, a little squirrel finds his way onto the map, just hiding into the tree. It's going to be Luminosity Gaming, final member there, as there are 12 squads left, and going to be in that last circle as well, or at least in the next circle, as Nessie's Graceful is going to be providing a lot of damage with this charge rifle, being a real nuisance at this point to the teams trying to rotate in, but also giving up their position here.
They managed to get inside this next circle, but those 2 shots were absolutely huge with the charge rifle. There's another shield break for you on the purple Evo shield. He's going to be able to destroy it potentially. And wants an ultimate as well. Unfortunately, that will be the last player from Lava City Boys who gets taken down. And surprise, surprise, who's involved in this battle towards the end? North, but also Na'Vi, who have just managed to pick up kill points onto AHG. Ad Hoc Gaming taken down, and North trying to push that as a third party. Really are struggling it at the moment. North now moving in with Nandi, and those shots will land with the EVA, and they will get the finish here onto Na'Vi. So a little bit of a delay there allowed them to do the damage to get the kill points here. But look at this push, and look at that hold from Mandy. The EVA 8 shots were wonderful in that situation.
Yeah, and that was Matafe just trying to get a little bit aggressive as the last remaining player of Ad Hoc Gaming, but that means Ad Hoc Gaming will also fall. North will survive, so we've got North, we've also got Nessie as part of these 6 squads, and this charge rifle is just being a pain in everyone's backside right now. No one able to just comfortably wait for anything to happen as FigFam find themselves down to just 1. Ranches takes down Carrie Rubik. Now FigFam, with just a rat alive, means that they can at least try and work their way into this final circle. There are a couple of healthy squads still left in this game that can really do some damage here.
Yeah, Nessie on one of those teams, and good thing for FigFam is I think that the position that they found themselves in there was just about inside of that next circle. The question is, can he keep his presence low enough to not alert these other teams who are around to where he is? SJP2, one of those teams, and you can see they've got some high ground to work with here inside of this circle. So they're in a really good point. And look at this, they've actually spotted out that player as well, who is trapped inside. There's a full team behind as well. So 4 players in a very, very tight area over there. And if that Gibraltar bubble goes away just about now, there's going to be huge damage. A second grenade will come in as well, but no damage is going to be landed as Major pushes. Part of one of the most epic tales that we've ever seen in Apex Legends, with that classic bunker battle, are looking to add a second book to this game, and LG actually going to move in. It's going to be Sanya who moves in to clean up Malawan from Major pushes, and that's 2 kills on the board for the solo player. That is huge from him. He gets the thirst as well. He won't be able to get the armor swap, but placement points and KP, extra bonus there for LG.
The bunker battle of 2020, just as 2020 couldn't get any worse. We have that bunker battle, but 4 squads left, Nessie being one of them in quite a commanding position. That's why they're getting aggressive now with some real damage coming out from the R301. But just to say that, they fall, and Mandy's the last one alive on the side of North now, but he's being a nuisance in this 3-squad battle, Mark.
Yeah, he's managed to go through the portal as well, just to make his life a little bit more difficult to hunt down. However, he has been taken down just off screen, and the Ring is going to be the person, unfortunately, who does that damage. It looks like it will be a Gibraltar here who's going to be caught off guard, but these shots are not good enough from Denze, but it doesn't matter because his teammates are there to hold his hand as SJP2 go back-to-back here in our grand finals. World's Edge or Kings Canyon, it doesn't matter to SJP2.
Yeah, SJP2 just looking really strong right now. It doesn't matter which map it is, apparently. The rotation was good, and just the execution at the end also pretty flawless. Always very difficult in those last circles when you're getting shot from various different situations, but they were able to spread themselves out, kind of look at several different teams and ensure that they weren't getting caught from different angles. They weren't getting caught from behind. No surprise tactics were going to work out against SJP2 there.
Yeah, they pretty much had the best position in the game in that end circle as well. They had the only bit of high ground to work with, but most importantly, we'll talk about advantages. You got to execute, and that's exactly what they did. Let's take a look back on some of the highlights of our 5th game of the day here. The first one, of course, on Kings Canyon. And LG, you have to give huge credit for them. I mean, this fight, they managed to clutch up and win, and Sanya was the man to do it in this situation. Beautiful wingman shots, and then converting with a either 8 shot to clean it up. But towards the end there, I think he picked up 2-3 kill points as a solo player as other teams were falling around him. And this was the end, Dan, as you called it, the Battle of 2020, the Bunker Battle of 2020. It was, I don't know if I enjoyed it or if it was just a bit weird.
I mean, I feel like we could have probably watched it throughout the entirety of that game until someone actually came to its conclusion. But instead, of course, we had to actually watch a proper fight that meant something. They were just doing nothing for so long. But at least eventually someone came out on top. Some decent final kills there as well from LG, picking up some KP when you were just the 1 player remaining as Sanya. And then SJP2 in this final battle, they did clutch up. And considering they had that early fight, Mark, where we were saying they did well to kind of assert their dominance on the drop spot and take out that one team that dropped with them. They've done very well to go from that point where they had a lot of like damage we put on them in the early stages to getting all the way to the end game and still closing it out.
Yeah, I wonder if Finalize are going to challenge them again on that drop. I'd be surprised if they do, considering that we just saw SJP2 not only, beat them in that battle off drop, but now gone back-to-back games as champions as well, picking up KP as well along the way to boot. I'd be surprised to see if Finalize do that. But the only way to find out that is to head to our next game. But we're taking a quick break before we do so tune back in to see if that battle continues. And welcome back once again, everybody, to the GLL Masters Summer. And Game 5 had the same result as Game 4 as SJP2 go back-to-back. The 2 means back-to-back. See what they did there? They know that name. But Game 6 is coming up, of course, Dan. We've got a couple more games after the next one to round out our first day of Grand Finals action here for the EMEA region. But, I mean, SJP2, what a performance in those last 2 games. A team that we hadn't even mentioned in the build-up to this Grand Finals really coming out and reminding us how good they are.
I think you'll find I actually said they were one of my favorite teams from the first week.
Kind of hoping you wouldn't remember it. That's why I said it.
Yeah. Just so we're not all like masterminds like you and have our prediction balls, all right? But at least I said they were a good team. But you know what? I say that about a lot of teams. So that just puts me in that scenario. But yeah, they've played really well, Mark. I mean, their early rotations have been great. The way they've been predicting circles and the way they've been holding other teams out of where they've been kind of situating themselves as well. They've been very good at gatekeeping, very good at ensuring that when it does come down to that final circle, they are in the perfect spot to pick up not only placement points, but KP too. That's what the big difference is. Like, these kill points have been huge for the majority of teams when they're getting victories, but SJP2 seem to have been doing it better than others because they're the first team to get 2 victories.
I think you raise a really good point there, which is, SJP2's decision-making on the rotation has been superb. They've recognized situations where they can take fights. They've also recognized situations where if they would continue to try and, approach an early rotation, then it might not be, potentially as advantageous. There might be a couple of teams already there. So they've made that decision on the fly to try and hold a choke point, to try and hold a team out, to try and third party a fight that's going on. And I can't really remember SJP2 being in a straight fight that you haven't felt that they have had the advantage in for the last 2 games. So you have to say decision-making has been superb so far. The question is, can they do the three-peat?
They can. Do I think they will? Probably not, just because I think that what we've seen throughout this tournament is as soon as a team thinks they get comfortable after getting a couple of victories, they start to slide off ever so slightly. I don't know whether that is just confidence dropping, whether they get overconfident. Who knows? But this is the total leaderboard after all of the matches we've seen today. Then SJP2 will find themselves right at the top of that leaderboard, of course, with 2 victories, 31 placement points, but still 26 kills. That's the most kills we've got in this lobby. North not far behind with 23 of their own, and they find themselves in 2nd place. Major pushes after the bunker battle of 2020 find themselves in 3rd, but we're dropping now into match number 6 of today then, and SJP2 again dropping in this same spot. But you raised the question, Mark, are we going to see any contention coming out from the other teams?
Yeah, it was finalized who were contesting them last time, so we'll have to check and see if that fight does go down. SJP2 feeling pretty confident about things, and look at this. Finalized have decided that they do not want a part of this, and quite rightly so. That's smart decision-making, not only from SJP2 to take that fight early on and establish that dominance, but also from the people who lost that fight, Finalized, who are in a pretty good position. You have to remember after day 1, I think they're currently well within the top 5. They're still only 3 points behind on the maximum kills in the lobby so far. So a smart decision from them, because if they lose that battle, that's 2 games on the row that they could fall further behind. So Finalized making that decision to play smart instead of playing ego-filled, and that works for me.
So the circle very far towards the eastern side of the map, slightly northern as well. And a couple of pings between Rig and Swamps, maybe where teams think this is going to be finishing. So those teams who have landed there near Capacitor, Labs, Swamps, and the Rig are all going to be in a decent spot to at least get into an early position to set themselves up for the end game here. But it's going to be about looting up to ensure they've actually got the weaponry to defend themselves when the oncoming rotators, who often are going to have better loot, actually come into the equation.
Yeah, we're going to see the blue box being dropped. That's flavor of the month. And they're going to finish their little loot path here. Nothing too crazy going on in the lobby at the moment. Not even any fighting, no down. So everyone's found themselves a little comfy spot to play from, which is, again, what we expect in a second game on a particular map where everyone kind of feels each other out and knows exactly what is going to happen. There's a bit of high ground, though, that I think is going to be real prime real estate in this circle, which is between the rig south and the rig itself, just up on the high grounds, actually just the other side of Swamps, which I really feel is going to be potentially a game-winning position. So you look for the teams who do have the Pathfinder to be able to take advantage of that, get up onto that high ground. For LG, unfortunately, they don't have that ability to do so, so they might be playing this one a little bit slower than some of the other teams, or look to lock down one of those buildings in Swamps.
Yeah, they're just edging their way towards Hydro Dam at the moment. No one actually in Hydro Dam, which is probably unexpected for them. They might know there's another team in Repulsor, though. Lazarus have got eyes, and their targets are firmly set, as that is a big shot being connected with by the Sentinel, and now it means the rest of Lazarus can push in if they want to. Looks like they are going to be having a little scout around the eastern side of it to see if they can see anyone. As well, here comes the Crypto. Crypto drone will try and give a little bit of information, but it looks like the team has actually been able to escape just up on the balloon there, taking the jump tower and getting away.
Exorcism then, just outside of Capacitor here. Just to the north. And now going to be landed some shots on this team that is rotating, who's kind of clueless, to be honest with you. And big shots onto the Gibraltar, unfortunately for them. The bubble will go down as Gambit Esports, almost a forgotten about team so far today in this lobby. You've had a little bit of a hard time. Are going to be able to get out of dodge here and make a rotation towards that little building in front of them. It's not going to be without pressure, though. As you see, Stangier here putting some more shots in with that charge rifle. But Exorcism now moving into a pretty similar area. You can see multiple portals around and multiple teams maybe looking for third-party opportunities as well, as inside Capacitor, just outside of Capacitor in that area, still Gambit Esports looking to move back around and maybe think about taking another fight. But the damage that they're taking at the moment, Gambit Esports are kind of caught in a really difficult spot here between multiple teams, and they can't really catch a break in this lobby so far.
Yeah, really struggling to just get their foot in and find anywhere that is going to be safe enough to call home for the time being. Nades and bullets flying everywhere. They've had to split up ever so slightly to try and hold some sort of crossfire just in case they are pushed from the rear. And here come the wingman shots just to try and tag a team and maybe warn that team off over towards Capacitor. For Gambit, they had a pretty slow start in this tournament. They had no kills, only one placement point after the first 3 matches, but then they did start to pick things up after match number 4. At the moment, Mark, I mean, their armor isn't too great, and they are being pushed by not only one, but 2 different teams.
Yeah, this is what I meant for Gambit. They really are caught in a horrible position here. They do manage to get the bubble down, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Artico will be taken down. That'll be clean wipe. And once again, it's Gambit Esports who are eliminated early on in our lobby here in game number 6, and not what we expected from them so far today. It really has not been their day in every single possible way, as SJP2, a team who were trying to move in to maybe get involved with some of those KP, are now on the back foot. The portal is down, and they managed to just about get through it. However, there's a team waiting on the other side of it, and SJP2 will be the second team to be eliminated. We will not see the back-to-back-to-back from them.
There we go. My crystal ball is actually starting to work now. Maybe it's rubbing off on me, Mark, but if there's 2 teams you don't want to be stuck between, it's probably SJP2 and Third Impact. Third Impact being one of the more aggressive teams, and SJP2 being one of the more consistent that we've seen. But SJP2, even after getting a couple of those kill points, were not able to escape with their own lives. They fall alongside Gambit now with the 2 squads eliminated. We're down to 18, and Cooler, well, they're in a little bit of trouble at the moment as well. They do have a nice little cozy building to hide in with plenty of room to dodge out of the way of any grenades, and of course do have the ability to heal up with the Watson if they would like. And the Watson fences are at least down to make things difficult in case teams do push them.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty comfortable here. They're well inside that next zone, and one player who is not well inside that next zone is this solo player who who's desperately trying to stay alive, and unfortunately will not be doing so. And that was Vase from Alliance, so we're going to see another squad eliminated. And I think that Vase was actually potentially that last player to be alive for Alliance. We'll get confirmation of that pretty soon, but major pushers inside this building as well. And Alliance, it looks like Hakis and IPN are still alive, so Vase is the only player who has been knocked. But Na'Vi now involved in a fight with Lava City boys. Third Impact they're going to be taken out as well, so a little bit of a slow day for them. And major pushes now, maybe just dropping down to get some armor swaps to take back to their building here. Lava City boys will lose that battle as well to Na'Vi, so teams starting to fall here as we've got 50 seconds left on round 1.
Yeah, Figvam go down as well. I'm not surprised to see Third Impact falling because they were in that same kind of choke point that SJP2 were when they originally pushed in, and there was just so many teams around that they couldn't really escape it. And the one player from Alliance, they're not able to escape with his team. And I think the reason why you thought they were wiped is because he fell off the map after he got shot down there. So he went straight down. It was a very early death for him. But maybe that box will be recoverable, depending on where it situates itself after the fall. As Major Pushers, who has been a really dangerous squad, do find themselves in a decent spot here with a lot of room to move. They've got a decent vantage point, so they can see different areas of the map, and they can kind of suss out how they want to rotate here. But for the moment, they're okay in this position.
You can see they're actually trying to trap that team inside of the building just below them. Nasty, Strafe, and Dell now involved in a battle of their own. Managed to get that player down to flesh damage. 47 flesh left, as Dell is going to be pushing in here, and a big wingman shot onto this player should be able to finish it. He's only 1 HP, and it's going to be Strafey who moves in to finish off that kill and get that knock onto Tashin. If they can get the thirst, that would be huge. But North really in a difficult position here, and now having to use that grapple to get away from this situation. RPR is going to be trying to hold the fort, but Nasty, Strafe, and Dell, you can see Strafey's trying to get aggressive onto this player and use the grapple of his own to finish off this team.
Strafe is actually the kill leader as well with 3 now. So clearly these guys feeling quite confident, and it's just going to bat up. They are just pinging out where all these players are, and it looks like they are very much on the hunt here, Mark. They want this KP. And again, that might be them just recognizing that this rotation is not going to be particularly comfortable. So to take advantage of a couple of weak teams that might be around, and it's going to be North down to just 2 and escaping with their lives. As Major Pushers now are going to be under fire, and you said they were trying to take down this team, but it looks like it hasn't gone too well, as Ranches has fallen. Cleve at least gets away, and of course, having that caustic means you can defend yourself a little bit more effectively.
Yeah, Major Pushers really are being aggressive on teams in this lobby so far. We're seeing a respawn coming in. I don't know if that's going to be an easier landing or a safe landing for the player who's going to reintroduce himself to that lobby. We're seeing Na'Vi getting involved as well in the kill feed with some kills of their own. Lazarus now involved in a battle as Savage is trying to desperately join his teammate Ida here in this corner. Unfortunately for them, they've lost Roger Bodger, so they'll be down to a 2-man. But 53 seconds left on this second ring. 15 squads still remaining, so not surprised to see a lot of fights still going on, but still a lot of presence on the map as far as teams are concerned.
It always upsets me when one of my favorite players, for just the way you say their name, gets eliminated. Again, Roger Bodger. It's just something about, it's like Bodger and Badger, isn't it?
Yeah, say it in a really English way as well, don't I? I'm like, Roger Bodger.
Bodger.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, Roger Bodger. Yeah, geezer.
But all these teams that are on the far east side of the map have kind of just set themselves up for a decent endgame, whereas everyone else on the west has been rotating in and are desperately just having these kind of scraps on the outside of the circle right now to try and work their way in, as Major Pushers are having another little look into this fight. Cleve is healthy in terms of his total, so he'll use his ultimate, get that bombardment out and see if he can do some damage. He'll have to use his own dome here just to survive, and it's going to be Cooler Esports that they are trying to push here, Mark. I mean, I said that they're in a pretty healthy spot in terms of all the angles they can watch here. They are making it very difficult for Major Pushers to do anything.
Difficulty for them is they had the doors blown off of that building, so they can't just hold those doors, and you know, those teams can't just push in with those doors on quite as comfortably. But you can see a little grenade being rolled through the window there, and Rugby had to be very careful not to get hit by that. Sanya's behind him and will get tagged up quite heavily. Just 10 HP left for him to work with, but should be able to retreat here and get those shields back up. But Rugby was actually pretty close to getting a fully maxed out Evo shield as well, so he might go for a little bit of a poke around as Flavor of the Month now. Speaking of pokes, again involved themselves as a fully auto Prowler will land some shots, and we saw another team just being eliminated on the right-hand side there, but Flavor of the Month currently in a battle with LG and another team inside the swamps. For that angle.
in these buildings in swamps because there are just so many little cracks that you can be shot through. And Pierre seems to know every little crack that he can pierce through with this longbow. Make it really difficult for these teams that are just trying to survive. And it is going to be Nessie on the other side of it. Just trying to stay alive and survive because they are in a decent spot. It's always the frustrating thing when you've been able to wait this long in an area where you know the circle is going to be moving there or thereabouts, and then suddenly there's someone who just comes and ruins your day and says, hey, that spot looks nice, or you look a little bit too cozy there. We're going to make sure you have to actually work for this placement points that you've been so desperately waiting for.
Well, it looks like we are going to see a bit of a ring pull here towards Rig South. So these teams who are fighting, and some big names in there, Alliance, LG, Flavor of the Month, we're all going to have to make that rotation. It looks like Alliance are kind of in the best position to do so as the furthest team ahead, but just use that portal up. Don't have to worry if Hackett has a gold helmet or an ultimate accelerate to set up another portal and try and move in, or if they're just going to make this decision to try and play for some kill points here around the swamps. But a minute left to go, like I mentioned, for them to make that decision. We'll have to see how this plays out.
Alliance are going to be zipping up to that ship as well. Always dangerous. You are going to leave yourself somewhat vulnerable because people will see, but maybe they're going to drop off this ship and now push this Nessie squad who are just inside away from this Gibby ult. You see JMW very aware of his surroundings and checking every single angle at the moment. And this side of swamps, you'd think it would have been quiet. You'd think everyone would have been able to get in a building and just avoided each other, but they've all been poking at one another, just letting them know that they're there.
Mady low inside of this building, and you could see there was a player just above him. One player who's below that building right now is Mistral from Outsiders, last man alive. 10 seconds until he's going to have to move. Has he managed to sneak into a position where he's inside of that ring, or is he going to wait for everyone else to move forward? You can see there's 3-4 teams outside of that next zone and where it's going to be closing, so everyone is going to have to make that move. There's also a team ballooning in from the south there. They haven't got their skates on. They're just moving a little bit quicker than everybody else. Na'Vi with more kills in the feed, and that's on Nasty Strafe and Dell as well. So I do believe that that is going to potentially be Nasty Strafe and Dell eliminated here. And what a game this has been so far from Na'Vi. Yeah,
Na'Vi stepping up now a little bit. Kings Canyon certainly does seem to be a more comfortable home for them. They certainly learned that in the LCQ anyway. As the Revenant, Crypto, and Wraith comp worked so effectively for them in match number 6 of that LCQ, but the Wraith was down, so they need to make sure they're able to pick her up. As Joke will fall to Matafi elsewhere, Ad Hoc Gaming picking up some points, but Exorcism now looks like they might want a little bit of a bite of this, but no. Actually deciding maybe we use this opportunity of gunfire elsewhere to rotate inside, as Ad Hoc Gaming have also lost a member. Kuya is down. Matafi and Zipeth doing their best just to try and survive at this point.
And Cleve going to be taken down to around 20 HP as well, and major pushers who have been trying to push the whole time now find themselves on the back foot. Last player alive for them is going to be Maliwan here on the caustic. If he can get inside a building, he will be able to survive a little bit longer as he's trying to do even more damage. He's got the ultimate as well. The only problem is he's getting flanked by Cooler Esports, who come in with the Peacekeeper to clean that up pretty comfortably, as Roe is going to get that armor swap, but still has to fight his way through that caustic gas to get back to full health.
Full health indeed, and now he can, of course, help Yuki get his bat up, and that is going to be a red Evo shield to work with, as major pushers are the next team to be eliminated. Still a healthy total of squads left, though, 13, as the circle getting smaller in 1 minute and 10 seconds. Nessie taking a couple of fights here, the Mastiff in the back pocket of Mady. They will back off, and this position they had in swamps that looked so comfortable for so long, well, they're going to have to exit and move on and move to better lands, but Alliance are also going to be on the other side of this one, trying to get aggressive and get a couple of damage and a couple of shots of their own.
The Hackett's trying to make those angles happen for him at the moment. You can see he's desperate to finish off some of the damage that is being done by these two teams. Another team in the background as well. Beautiful shots with the R9 to pat that team down in the choke, but they've got to make this decision. Are they going to rotate? Are they going to try and pick off these KP? Are they going to hold these teams out? All decisions that have to be made in the next few seconds, 25 seconds until that ring is going to be closing. And they're on the far side of it as well, all of these teams, so they're going to be forced to move nice and quickly. And speaking of moving quickly, here comes Hakis as well. Beautiful shots from him to take down the Gibby, which he will finish. Now the question is, can he finish off the rest of the team?
Yes, Flavor of the Month on the receiving end of it. It's going to be Noth taken down, and Taylor is going to be the last remaining player. And with that circle closing, he says, all right, well, this is my opportunity to try and survive, get out of dodge, and get into this next circle. See if I can rat our way to some decent placement points. But as soon as he gets in that circle, he is under fire from what would seem everyone on the map. He can't go anywhere. And Flavor of the Month will fall. No success there from Taylor.
I'm vibing down to 2 players there, Nice and Biting. They managed to work their way into a position here where they will be inside of that circle. It looks like they have a rock to play with. They also have a Crypto who could do a little bit of scouting, but also EMEA team to slow them down from pushing. So they'll be able to find an angle where they should be safe for a little bit of time. North also still alive as well, with 2 players there. 9 beautiful shots there with the R9 as well to finish off that player. And Nice will now be the kill leader as well. And there's another one for him on the solo player from Outsiders, who will go into the void here just to survive these thermites. His teammate is taking quite a lot of damage though, but what a play that is. A solo play, and now the kill leader with 5 kill points to his name.
Well, North, who lost their third pretty early on, have a vantage point here and have the knowledge of where these teams are below them. They just need to be careful on the rotation as Na'Vi now under a lot of fire, and Na'Vi will fall in 8th position, but they did well just to get to that point. A lot better than they've been doing in some of the earlier games.
They're down to 7 then. Ad Hoc Gaming, one of those teams. North, one of those teams as well, as RPR tries to hit some of those trademark wingman shots onto that team inside of the building. They don't have a lot of resources to be working with though. You can see no batteries here for RPR, so he's going to have to take his time and heal slowly with these shield cells. 34 seconds left until they're going to have to move forward as well. And you can see Mandy's going to pop that ult accelerant as well to see if he can hit a zip line into an area where they'll be able to traverse a little bit quicker. And it looks like they're maybe going to look for these kill points as well on these 2 players who are going to be rotating. RPR going to be moving up with his teammate. Here is now the last player alive for Exorcism. Here's the Watson just outside of the circle here, but in a position to maybe make a little bit of a play if he can take down this solo Gibby.
Yeah, in a spot to actually do some damage here, and there's a lot of weak squads still left in this, so being a solo or a duo isn't the end of the world at this point. Still potentially winnable. Ad Hoc Gaming down to 2. They do have the banner, but that is certainly not going to be a respawn that they could go for. I don't even see a respawn beacon in sight, as Zipeth so close to be taken down, as Vibin now doing some real damage with shots as they walk on in with the circle. North have been able to get into a okay spot, but there's a team above them. Can RPR survive here in this spot? It looks like he might have got away with it. Maybe no one knows that these 2 guys are here.
Alliance is still in it as well, and LG have been taken down. You can see Hackis is going to be revived as well by his teammate. Vaves is going to be holding the angles, and we're down to 5 squads now. One of those teams is North, and here's a surprise that you do not want, as Vaves misses that initial shot, but gets some damage down. Cooler Esports, I think, have managed to take down the last player there from Ad Hoc Gaming, as now Alliance inside of this building will have to move outside very soon, but you have to say they are in a fantastic position to potentially close this game.
Well, especially because they're a healthy 3, as elsewhere there's not very much health on these squads. North down to just 2, and Mandate needs to heal up.
That's what he's meant to get just the last second there, and he, luckily enough, is going to be able to get it off. But you can see pinging that solo player, and look at this height. Look at this position here for Cooler, Dan.
Yeah, well, that changes things. Alliance looked very comfortable, but now Cooler might have just suddenly taken the advantage in this game. They're going to have eyes on absolutely everything now. And this is going to be so difficult for the teams that are below them to try and survive when they do push out inevitably. We're down to just 3. And one of those 3 is just this lone surviving rat on Exorcism. He's done well to get into the top 3. 3 kills for him as well. So it's going to be Cooler versus Alliance is realistically what we're looking at here. And Cooler having the height advantage mark.
Well, never count out a solo. You never know what could happen in this situation. If Alliance and Cooler fight, it might give the opportunity here for the Rat to steal in and steal the glory. Round 6 is going to be closing. I think that Alliance are just about inside the circle here. You can see they've set up a portal themselves as well. They might actually be going to the opposite side, and it looks like in the meantime Cooler are involved in a battle. Maybe they found that solo Rat. Looks like they have as well. The portal is going to be absolutely burnt to a cinder though, as Sanji will be taken down. So now it's a 2v2, Cooler versus Alliance. Like you said, straight 3v3 fight. The advantage is in the hands of Cooler though, as they have the high ground here.
Bombardment comes out, but of course Watson ultimate down just to try and counter it, and Alliance, they are stuck in such a horrible spot, but still winnable, just not an easy fight for them to take. They really need to make the most of the Pathfinder here, I feel, if they're going to get anything done. As Cooler Esports are slowly dropping.
Oh, Vaves!
Vaves, that's what I said. The Pathfinder has to do a job here. Yuki goes down, and it's advantage Alliance.
The question is, can they push from this? What a play this is from Vaves. He charges in once again up the zip line with the Mastiff, misses the second shot. But has this been the advantage that Alliance need to close out this game? It's been massive from the Pathfinder. He can't finish it off himself, but can his teammate Hackis finish off this game for Alliance? Misses one, connects with the second, but the shield is not going to be enough. It doesn't matter. Somehow Alliance win that game. And Vaves take a bow. Perfect Pathfinder play coming in from him.
It's where you just take a deep breath and you say, okay, guys, I got this. Don't worry. I know I'm the one who can get up there and actually do some damage. And do some damage he did. And now we see Alliance taking yet another victory in today's grand finals. Of course, this is the first set of games today. We still have 8 more tomorrow and 2 more left today. So still plenty of action for teams who maybe haven't been performing particularly well. But Alliance are one of the teams who has been performing well. They joined SJP2 with those double victories, Mark. And I'm not really surprised because with the way they were playing at the start of today, I knew that it was going to be inevitable that they would start to pick up points again elsewhere.
Called it. Anyway, amazing stuff from Alliance. We'll take a look back on some of the highlights here. And the first highlight's actually going to be one where things weren't looking too good for them, as Vace was actually dropped in this situation, I believe it was. The man who they managed to get back into the game. And Lord, oh Lord, it was a good job they did, because he was the man who changed the game for them in this end circle. But Nessie hit, putting some nice shots down on that team in the chokes. But we lost a lot of teams on this rotation down through those chokes.
We did, as you often do. The choke points are just so difficult to get through. And if you do have teams who are set up on either side of them, it means that if there is any sort of fight, a lot of people just kind of converge around them just because of the noise. And they think that there's going to be free KP. And often there might be a couple of free kills, but then you are going to find yourself at your own detriment because the other teams are then going to take you down. But what fight this was. I mean, look at this from Vaves, just zipping up. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Get some decent damage. And then the rest of the team were able to follow after he put that zip towards the top. And Cooler Esports, I think they'll be a bit annoyed with that one, if I'm completely honest, Mark. They probably thought that that was an unlosable game with all that high ground.
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes playing the high ground is good if you have the angles to shoot down from, but they just didn't have angles on Alliance there. And that's the difficulty, is like, well, we're going to have to move at some point for that next circle, and Alliance then have the advantage. But I love the fact that Alliance, once they were given that advantage, right, they took it. They didn't slow down. They kept the aggression on. And Vace, as I said, take a bow. Fantastic example of how to use the Pathfinder. But we're going to take another break now before we get back to our next game, which I believe is our penultimate game of day one of our grand finals for the EMEA region. So we'll see you in just a sec. And welcome back once more, ladies and gentlemen. Putting some energy back into the broadcast right now because Dan Gaskin made a cup of tea, and that got me all excited for our penultimate game of the day. We've just seen Alliance take their second win of the day, which is, of course, huge for them as they were up at the top of the leaderboards anyway. But Dan, a real opportunity here for them to close out strong in our last 2 games, and they've been so impressive to me. And this is what I wanted to see from them. When I talked about them at the start of the day, this is the Alliance I remember being at the top of the EMEA region.
Yes, this is the Alliance we knew that they had the possibility to do this, right? Like, they had a couple of shaky moments throughout the 4 weeks, but when it comes to this final, when it comes to game day, Alliance, they know how to step up, and step up they have. These are the results from match 6. Alliance did win it alongside 8 kill points. Cooler Esports did pick up more kill points, but of course didn't get as much placement points, but they will keep on the toes of Alliance on this particular game. Gambit went straight back down to the gutter after their victories. They will be, after their success, they're back down to 0 points, as we can now look at the overall leaderboards then after match 6, and Alliance still topping it, just 2 points ahead of SJP2 now, Mark, and North are still there, major pushers, Ad Hoc Gaming, a lot of big boys up there.
I think that's the thing for me. The teams who haven't won games yet but have been super consistent are the likes of North, are the likes of Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. I mean, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, yes, they've won one game today and they won the second game, but apart from that, they haven't really done too much. But to be within striking distance as we go into our penultimate game still shows the level of consistency that they do have to offer. But we're going to start off with Alliance here, and they're going to be making their way around the swamp. So a pretty good circle for them. We have to remember as well, as they do land over here at the swamp. So didn't have too far to go in that particular area. Would have been used to that end circle. We'll have to see what happens to Alliance here if they have to make their way across Kings Canyon here. But they've already showed earlier that they can do that. In the first game of the day, they had to make their way right from the very south point of World's Edge right to Refinery, right the way across the map. So they've shown that they can win even from the most disadvantageous of positions for them to work from.
Yeah, some teams actually prefer having to kind of rotate in and being able to loot on the way and take fights on the way rather than just kind of staying static from where they've dropped. It can be a little bit boring, I'm going to say. Some teams just don't like to play that way. Of course, there are other teams that are more than happy to sit in that one spot. For others, they prefer to be more aggressive. But Finalized at the moment are going to be in a little bit of an engagement. Bryn needs to be careful because he has no armor whatsoever. And it's Lazarus coming in for this fight, trying to do as much as they can. It's going to be Roger Bodger who is trying to survive. But at the moment, Finalized look like they have the better of this fight. As that's going to be a second taken down. 1 kill point secured. And now they can get the res and they can potentially push in to finish off and get this entire wipe onto Lazarus.
Yeah, it looks like res is actually going to come in on the other side as well. It's a case of who can get a teammate back up in time and who can get an armor swap to work with. Lazarus has actually just been left with one player. They didn't get that res. Maybe they were just faking the res to see if that player would push, but Ida's now going to try and get out of dodge. But interesting thing for me, as the thermite goes down and they try and chase down this last player, is just remember, Finalized were the team at the start of Kings Canyon who were contested by SJP2 in the middle of the map and the middle river. So the fact that they've had to relocate themselves and now decided that the place that they want to take is going to be also contested shows that they're confident in their ability to win the team fight, maybe against a team they realized was in this position, Lazarus. Yeah,
just ruining the flow of the entire game, aren't they? Lazarus were probably more than comfortable dropping on their own, and then suddenly here come the rest of the boys from Finalized just to say, actually, no, we'll take this one quite firmly from your feet. Thank you very much, as we look across to see where everyone else is doing on the map. And it is going to be a very long rotation for those teams on the east side. Like you said, Mark, from Swamps, going to have to go all the way towards Airbase and Bunker Town. And that's why we see a couple of teams already in residence in Bunker Town, because it does often finish there or thereabouts.
And that's going to be a question to be answered here for Alliance, the kind of question that I posed. It seems like I genuinely do have some sort of crystal ball going on today, or if something's going on behind the scenes. But
shoe on head or pre-recorded is basically all I'm going to say.
It's out. This is 3 days ago. This all happened. But Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are one of those teams who are making their rotation now, as we see Lazarus Esports confirmed as our first team to be eliminated from the lobby. Moving their way through the destroyed cascades, but a couple of shots being dealt from a distance on them, and it's actually not that far of a distance because the team is inside this building as Nasky is trying to push. Big shot with a Mastiff. Make that 2. Can he wipe them all out? Of course he can. Nasky with a big push, helped out by Dell in the end, but that's going to be 3 KP, and that was Finalized. The team that we were watching at the start of this game being eliminated and decimated here.
And that's what Nasky, Strafe, and Dell can do. One of the best to do it. As soon as they've got weaponry in their hand and they have confidence behind them, they are going to be more than happy to just execute onto a team and absolutely wipe them out. Luminosity now rotating in. A little bit of an unorthodox way to do so, but I found themselves on a nice little vantage point here at Airbase. But there are teams already booked up on the top of Airbase as well, and you did see the crypto ult there, so there are going to be several teams here in Airbase fighting it out. So for Luminosity, they're just trying to gain a little bit of information at the moment and see whether they can maybe take one of these buildings just in case this circle does head towards Airbase. We have seen it, of course, end on those runways quite often.
So you're taking some shots here, having to put that Gibby bubble down, and LG don't have the best of armor situations, but now they have a little position to work from. They're going to be more than comfortable to hunker up here and take their time to reset. Rugby going to have those doors left open for him to move in, as Na'Vi are getting involved here in the kill feed. Another team that's looking to do so is going to be Third Impact as they push in, and the flatline shots were connecting and connecting hard, and it's SJP2 who are the team who are coming under the fire here of Third Impact. Only a little bit of flesh to be finished off here, and it is SJP2 will go down, I believe, completely in that fight, and Third Impact kind of reminding us that after a couple of sloppy games, they really can put things together here and are one of the most dangerous teams in the lobby, still running that Crypto Revenant.
That's why it's so hard to predict, like, who's actually going to come out on top when we get to, like, the final matches in this tournament, when we get to tomorrow and we get to the nitty-gritty, because even though those teams like SJP2, like Alliance, have been performing so well, there are those games where they just drop in the early stages, and whether they're being hunted a little bit more as soon as teams see those names with the knocks, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But either way, it just means that it opens things up at the top end of this leaderboard where, realistically, it's still wide open for who can take this title and take home all that prize money. Still so many matches to play. Of course, only 2 today, but 8 more tomorrow.
Well, FigFam have managed to find themselves a little spot to play here, just on the east side of Airbase, just kind of caught between Airbase and Bunker Town, so they're going to have to wait and see where that pull is going to be, as a lot of teams are. It looks like a lot of teams are kind of betting on it being an Airbase. Quite a lot of that second circle was over the oceans that surround Kings Canyon, which usually gives an indication it's going to pull more towards the coastline than away from it. But we'll see if that is true, as Na'Vi now are moving in on the location, which was pretty close to where we just saw that team. And it looks like they might be waiting for those ults to make another push, as we're now going to see the EMP potentially going out as the portal is being set up. And this is all of the makings of a strong Revenant push coming in from Na'Vi.
Definitely the potential to pick up some KP here if they can find out where this team is. There goes the Crypto ult, and it is going to actually connect, and then here comes the boys. They've got the portal as well, just to see if they want to get aggressive, or they can use it to escape, as it's going to be the double portal at this point, just to try and get away. But then you're just running into all sorts of chaos, all sorts of madness as the totems are down, and North are going to be able to survive, and there's not going to be too much of a detrimental situation for them. It did look a little bit worrying when there were teams kind of flying towards them, but they're okay.
Yeah, North did a really good job there to send all of those players back without getting a player knocked, without taking a huge amount of damage, and that's pretty much the aim of the game here. If you're going up against a Revenant team, you either run or you try and get those players reset as quickly as possible before they can do that damage to have that secondary push. So a great job there from North on the back foot to put in that defensive performance, as Exorcism now are going to be another team taking up some of this high ground over where LG were just a few moments ago, and maybe just looking to fence up, as they're quite happy inside this building, but just looking to put those fences down and give a little bit of a locator if anyone does try and move up behind them.
Just make things a little bit easier. Only 3 teams really outside of that green circle. And of those 3 teams, there's one team that's going to be able to actually comfortably rotate into Bunker, but it's where they go after Bunker that is probably going to be the difficult situation, as Ad Hoc Gaming are in an engagement. Joke will get taken down by Taffy there. Him and Zipeth just doing some real damage with the R301 and the R99. Zipeth again just wielding the R301 as if it were an SMG rather than a rifle. And Ad Hoc Gaming will continue to survive and move on, taking down 2 from Vibin. It's just going to be biting left on his own. It's whether he goes for these banners as the Crypto.
Yeah, good job there from Ad Hoc as well, holding off the Revenant push once again. And as you say, it's just going to be the Crypto now. The one good thing that you do have on your side as a Crypto, of course, you have that drone to see where teams are surrounding you. So as a rat, you can kind of hopefully find a little bit of a safe haven. The only issue is, of course, if you are inside of using that drone, that you're going to be pretty much immobile yourself if you do get spotted. But Lava City Boy is involved in a fight themselves here, and Cat Ryan is going to be taken down to pretty low health. However, his teammates are going to be in a perfect position to help him out just at the last second, and they're going to win that fight there as they actually take down Naski, Strafe, and Dell. So a huge performance from Lava City Boys to win that fight against a team who have looked really, really good in those early moments.
Yeah, and Lava City Boys, who have often been dropping within the first few as well in the matches today. So picking up some important kill points, but also maybe just gaining a little bit of confidence to say, hey, actually, we can take down some of the top teams that are in this lobby, as the gold armor is there and available, and quite rightly being dropped onto the Wraith. Now only 14 squads left. Lava City Boys are very close to this next circle, but it's about where they go afterwards. A lot of teams are already having so much space in airbase. And it means if it does move over towards airbase, these teams who are outside of airbase really are going to have a tough time picking up placement points. Whee!
There you are going to see that Crypto, as you say, Dan, quite rightly. Whee! Finding his way across the Golden Sands and running away from Cooler Esports. And quite rightly so as well, trying to survive just a little bit longer as Caller now make their approach up to where that next circle is going to be. It looks like they want to take a little bit of a wider rotation back through this choke as we hop back on board with North, and the game is going to slow down a little bit here. Second circle is going to be closing in around 25 seconds. With 14 squads remaining, there's a lot of room for these teams to play with at the moment, with 6 teams already being eliminated. You can see it there just inside that circle. Lots of room to play, so I wouldn't expect too many teams to be engaging at this point. Everyone's pretty comfortable. Everyone's pretty safe within the zone. It's just a case of where is that next circle going to move. And Bunkertown does have the beacon available, which would be interesting, as there is a team actually there on their own at the moment. So if they can hit that, they'll have a really good indication of where they want to set up.
Yeah, they can see where this next circle is, and then the circle after that as well. But it's just a case of actually whether they can touch the beacon. There might be too many eyes on them, so they won't be able to just stand still and go for it. Maybe you could go for a little bit of a body block, because that much information could prove to be vital and could be a victory for you, as round 2 is closing now, and in 23 seconds we are going to know where this next circle is going to be. Whilst actually North are under a little bit of fire, but at the moment I think it's just a bit of an ego battle from one side of airbase to the other, where it's who can hit their wingman shots from a distance more successfully. That one shot that was hit was just unreal, by the way. Like, you shouldn't be able to hit a wingman shot from that distance. It's just incredible what these players can do. As Alliance spot one player just above them, and you can see that circle is still going towards airbase.
Ooh. Okay, so we've still got airbase involved. We've still got Bunkertown and High Desert involved as well. So we're going to have to wait and see once more. If we do get the opportunity to see the Pathfinder beacon, that would be absolutely huge. Lava City boys now trying to get involved in a fight themselves. Here comes the push with the Gibraltar. Both bubbles are going to be used. Nades are going to be going down inside the bubble as well. The question is, will they do any damage? And it's going to be damage kind of shared between the two teams, to be honest with you. However, a big shot with the Mastiff there. Make that 2. Puts all of the pressure onto Shadfield to hit this shot, and he does so. Lava City boys clutch up once again in a straight 3v3 fight. Unfortunately for them, there is a Wraith coming around the corner to clean up business, but it was Alliance that Lava City boys won the fight against there.
Let's go this way.
It was indeed, but then on came Gambit to ensure they picked up the free KP and also taking the real estate there as well. Yeah, you're quite right. There is the one position just at Bunkertown that does have the Pathfinder beacon available, and there was one team in residence there. As Figvam now going to get hit by this crypto. Oh, EMP comes through. They do have the chance and a little bit of time to heal up. Not necessarily going to be the Revenant push that maybe they were expecting.
Oh, but North have decided to get involved here, and what a shot that was by RPR. 100 plus with the massive shot, putting down that portal to try and get involved in the battle, and they do so. It's 9M2 is going to be the man to go down. He will be finished off as well, so a ballsy play coming in there from North to put that portal down to try and take advantage of that fight that was going on below them, and they're going to be more than happy with that situation to pick up a KP.
They still know that Na'Vi are here, and RPR just wants more. It's 104, make it 52. He's hitting some absolute shots right now. And look at this, Mande's just watching from a distance as well. He knows that they don't need to all commit to this fight. Instead, they're being very smart about this. And then just when Na'Vi think they're safe, here comes Figvam to clean things up. Poor Na'Vi were really stuck between it there. Couldn't get away. And eventually, they came to their demise. It means they will be eliminated in 12th place.
Those massive shots from North are absolutely superb, and these ones coming in from Figvam aren't too bad either. The defensive bombardment will come in from the Gibraltar to just force them back inside this building, allowing the other team to get some heals off, but really accurate shots coming in from all of our teams at the moment. You can see that they're starting to warm up a little bit and find those ranges with the Mastiffs, as Gambit Esports now set up right in center zone here. However, are they in a position to make a rotation, as we are going to see a circle closing in around 14 seconds or so, as Exorcism are also coming under some shots here.
There's a real chance for these leaderboards to be flipped as well, with Alliance and SJP2 being eliminated in the early stages, as Exorcism are just getting shot by every single person on the map, it would seem right now. Taylor picks up one for Flavor of the Month, Cooler gets one as well, but Exorcism's surely going to fall. Flavor of the Month down to just 2. Noth will try and get the KP here, but is he going to be able to get the res? That's the real question. Does look like he's going to be safe enough to do so. Flavor of the Month doing really well to both pick up KP and placement here.
I just saw some shadows coming around the corner though, and it's Luminosity Gaming. The question is, can they all get back up to full health and get rezzed before LG take advantage of it? The portal is down, the shots are coming in, and one knock is going to come in onto Taylor. Can they get out of the portal? No, they get the finish. Pierre's down, Taylor's down, and that's a big play coming in from LG. They saw the opportunity to pounce, and they did exactly that.
Yeah, that's all the flavor of the month out now in 10th.
Let's go!
Cooler are above the team that had just gone in and got aggressive. It is going to be LG below them. And Yuki doing some real damage with the scout there. But look, he just absolutely shifts his aim to elsewhere on the map. They know they can't focus on just one team right now, but the damage they've done, it meant the focus was shifted onto Cooler. And now they're running into yet another team. And look, they've got this tiny little crack to try and hide it, but it looks like they'll be okay for now. But Ad Hoc Gaming, they smell this. The Bloodhound is going to give them all the information they need to push.
Here comes the Hound, and here comes Ad Hoc Gaming. However, where has this team disappeared to? I think Kuya's little look around there summed everything up that we wanted to know. They've managed to scarper away here, as they were kind of caught in a difficult position between a couple of teams. But Ad Hoc Gaming now have taken this position, one of the strongest positions you can have in this situation, up on the high ground. As we see, it is going to be pulling in towards airbase confirmed now. And Kuya, Matafe, and Zipeth set up for some late success in this game. Another team who managed to get away from that situation is LG, having picked up KP along the way onto Flavor of the Month. Now they find themselves in a decent little spot under this bridge.
A decent spot, but a very vulnerable spot. So you're going to be shot from several different angles, and they are being spotted by that crypto drone as well. Sanya, and Rugby here just need to be careful they don't get pushed from behind. If they don't, and if that circle does just close in, and it means that they have the red to their back, then maybe they can be a little bit more comfortable. It's very difficult for them to push out of this area once that circle next comes in. As Third Impact still alive as well, and a Kraber in the hands of Jazz, so they can do some work here, just on the outside of airbase.
Only needs 188 as well to get that full red Evo shield as well. So one big massive shot, and he will have that in the bag. Now the question is, where is this circle going to be moving? Keep an eye on the top left-hand side of your screen to see where this shift is going to be, and it's deep into airbase, and that's bad news here for Third Impact. They need to make their way across the open ground towards that huge wall where those teams are already set up.
North were in prime position, if I remember correctly, and now Third Impact potentially going to try and use this totem, not just to get aggressive, but actually to try and take a decent position off of another team. And it looks like this building is going to be the building of choice just for now, as they slowly but surely just work their way towards this next circle. And here is going to be the first team they come across, and actually it's going to be already a weak player, and here's a second one. It's going to be Gambit, who lose 2 players to the aggression of Third Impact, who weren't really expecting someone to come from that angle.
And that's the effectiveness of the buff to Revenant there. No distance on the death totem means that death protection, you can chase, you can run, and if your initial target isn't there, you can keep moving. And that's exactly what they did, as Ad Hoc Gaming now exchanging some shots with North still stuck up on that high ground, managing to move across into the zone as well. There's a team underneath them. They need to be super careful on this zip line, but they managed to all get away here and will be able to heal pretty comfortably. But now they've got a little area that they can move to, as LG now moving in on this bubble. Big fight. 112 with the Mastiff is going to end that one, and that's Cooler Esports eliminated from the game.
Zipeth falls alongside Matafi. It's just Kuya alone on Ad Hoc Gaming now. Some big shots from the Mastiff, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He can do some damage, but there's just too much bullets coming from elsewhere. Third Impact get yet another kill. They were one of the last teams to rotate into this circle, but now Ziki will fall. And that means it's just down to Balanji and Jazz after 2 successful pushes. Unfortunately for him, he just wasn't able to avoid the oncoming shots after he fell down.
Might be able to get a res in this situation, though. He managed to crawl away, so not all doom and gloom there for Third Impact. KP on the board for them. And then he might be able to get back up to a full complement of players as well. For Figvam, they're going to have to move out of this building, and they're going to have to get into a position where they can bubble forward. That's exactly what they're going to do. There is one player behind them, and he's going to be absolutely met in the face by a Mastiff. Here come all the shots from the high ground as Third Impact try and get involved themselves. Ziki is the last man alive. They did manage to get the reds, but he will be taken down. Third Impact fall as Luminosity Gaming come out on top in that battle. We're down to our final 3 squads. LG in this bubble, but they've got to move towards that zone.
Move towards the zone, and I'm pretty worried for them as well. I think North is still a squad that reside above them, as they have been there for so long. So Luminosity Gaming and North currently just trying to have a little look to see where this team is that already found themselves a little bit further down with the Watson fences. But North have done so well to keep this positioning throughout the entirety of this game, Mark.
Sanya's going to take some shots. Rugby will be dropped here from Luminosity as Mandy hits a huge shot with the Kraber to take him down. And those moments can be the things that completely and utterly swing a match here on Kings Canyon. Outsiders of the other team who are involved don't have the best of armor situations, but do have the position to work with on the teams that are above them. So OS trying to sneak around this corner. Alternator in the hands of Mistral as well. We'll have to see if he can put this to use here. Can LG get the res though? That's the question. Did LG's player get finished there?
I think he did get finished. I think I saw a green. Yep, it did.
He's out.
And they're not going to be heading towards that beacon, I can tell you. We're not going to see a respawn. LG down to just 2. North have the healthy total and the height advantage, whereas Outsiders have the advantage of being in the next circle. I would imagine the Outsiders should be able to get top 2 at the very least here. But of course, LG could do something about that if they get aggressive and find them first before North get involved in the fight. But we still have 3 seconds before this circle closes, and now here comes the aggression.
Bubble forward here from Luminosity. Not the greatest of armor and not the greatest of weaponry to work with here. And the push is going to come in on Outsiders, and they're going to be caught in the red here. Lots of problems here for them to deal with, but it looks like LG have been taken down. And Outsiders will be able to survive here due to the help coming in from North. The only problem is North are collapsing onto them, and there is the win that North were looking for. A huge performance in them in our penultimate game of today. They've been superb so far. They've been consistent, but that one thing has been missing. But now that can be ticked off the list. North are the champion.
Yeah, and with Alliance and SJP2 falling early in that game, that is a real chance for North now to leapfrog and potentially get to the top of this leaderboard after our 7 games. I think Outsiders did pretty well there with their positioning, but I'm probably sure that they knew they weren't going to win that game, judging by what kind of armor they had, what weapons they had, and the fact North had just been dominating the positioning throughout the entirety, and North just had absolutely everything. They had high ground, they had weapons, they had red Evo shields, they were poised for victory, and they executed it perfectly. Great game to watch. I always enjoy an airbase finish because I feel like it is one of the more predictable circles on Kings Canyon, so we had a lot of teams that rotated quite early just to try and get that real estate.
Here's some of the highlights from that game, and Lava City Boys were the team to take out Alliance, the winners of our previous game in that 1v1 fight. It wasn't for too long though, and this was the poor old Na'Vi moment as they tried to do everything they could to survive and pick up KP, but kept getting pushed by multiple different teams. LG with the push here onto Flavor of the Month as well. And Cooler Esports couldn't quite get the damage done that they wanted to in this situation, but Third Impact were another team who put up some decent KP. You can see here on the top right-hand side of your screen, 2 already in the bag there. But these final moments were what really changed the game. And I just want to talk about the Mastiff and the accuracy coming out of RPR, because he really has been superb so far.
Has been superb, and I mean, to be fair, Mastiff shots out of the majority of players have been pretty spot on. Like, we've seen some big hits today. I was always wondering what would happen after we saw the change of Peacekeeper being changed for the Mastiff and the Mastiff being the primary shotgun, but people have been able to adjust to it accordingly and are still hitting big shots with it as well, doing some real damage, and the shotgun meta still very much is alive in my heart. But I'm very impressed with what North did there, and considering the consistency of them today, I feel like they are one of the favorites for me to win this tournament.
So North pulling out a win at just the right moment in this game, in our penultimate game of the day. We've got one more game to go today on day number 1 of the grand finals. Dan Gaskin's happy. He gets to have a sip of his tea, but don't worry, we're going to have a quick break and we'll be back for our last game here on Kings Canyon. See you in just a sec. Welcome back, everybody. One more game to go here on day 1 of the GLL Masters Summer Grand Final for the EMEA region. That is somewhat of a mouthful, but North have come up with a big performance in that penultimate game of the day, Dan, and with their consistency they've had so far, I'm looking forward to seeing the leaderboards here, because you were saying in the break, you think that might be enough to push them right up to the top.
Could be, just because of how consistent they have been. They've been there or thereabouts in the end game, and with Alliance and SJP2 falling early in that game, then there is the chance for a little bit of a leapfrog. This is going to be the placement points and the kills from match 7. So not only did North pick up the victory, but also 11 kills to go alongside it. Third Impact actually finishing second with the 12 kills they were able to find, despite the fact they didn't get to the top 3. And then LG and Outsiders, of course, we saw how they performed getting into those top 3 positions. But SJP2 falling in 20th. We also saw Alliance only getting the 1 point in 14th, which is what makes me think that North are going to be residing at the top of this table when we look at the overall leaderboards, Mark.
Well, here they go, the overall leaderboards. And yes, indeed, wow, look at that game and what that has done for North. A real canyon has opened up between them and Alliance of 18 points. Yes, my maths took a while there to put together. It was very simple, but I'm a thick man. 38 kills on the board for them, and now they are the kill leaders in the lobby as well, Dan. 42 placement points. I mean, you can't argue with that, right? Most placement points and most kills in the entire lobby. They are top for a reason.
Top for a reason, and I mean, I think we knew this was possible, right? I mean, they were the #1 team after the 4 weeks of the qualification process for this grand finals. They've been shining in other tournaments as well in the Apex world. They just look like one of the teams, the best teams in the EMEA region right now, and they're starting to create a little bit of a difference. The main kind of situation that we find ourselves in with Alliance and SJP2 is, yes, okay, they've been performing very well, but it's just the fact that they dropped so low in the games where they were eliminated. It has allowed North to create that little bit of a gap that we see of the 18 points that you talk of. Teams that are a little bit lower than we expected, I mean, Gambit down there in 18th, but still somewhat rescuable. Very unlikely they are going to be able to finish in the top 2 with another 9 games left, but still possible if they're able to absolutely dominate lobbies. A team like Nessie is doing okay there or thereabouts. Outsiders are probably where they'd be expected to be as well. This leaderboard is starting to take shape now. I think it's starting to look more similar and more what we expected it to look like coming into this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think North really did need that win just to push them over the threshold. And that's what I mean about staying in touch. You got to think now, if Alliance can do what North did in that previous game, and the same with SJP2, if North fall early here and then Alliance or SJP2 pick up a win, all of a sudden, things are looking very, very tasty for tomorrow's second half of our grand finals. But for now, it's up to those teams to make that charge, make that play in this series in our last game of the day. And we are going to, no surprise, be starting off with North, the winners of our last game, top of the leaderboards, heading into our last game. And, it couldn't have been much better for them today. As long as they can close out the day by having another consistent performance, North surely have to be the favourites here going into day number 2, excuse me.
Yeah, it's hard to really find any sort of negative points for North in how they've played today, because they have just been they've just played the game in a certain way that has made it very difficult for other teams to actually outplace them, whether it be avoiding fights when they need to, whether it be getting aggressive in the right situations, or whether it's just been about their rotations and holding high ground and recognizing where that next circle is going to be. Everything has been on point for North today, but we'll see whether they can carry it through to the final game of the day. Of course, 8 more matches still tomorrow, so this is not going to be the grand finals all wrapped up just yet. Oh no, we've got yet another day of action.
Well, I'd like to apologise to everyone who just saw me in the 2-box mute my mic and shout at myself for messing up that sentence because I didn't realise I was in a 2-box. But now we do, and I'd like to apologise. But Lazarus Esports trying to get involved in a fight again with Finalised here at the start of our final game of the day. And it looks like Lazarus is just playing this one a little bit slowly because Ida hasn't managed to pick up an armour himself, and he's already coming under fire. So Ida, although he does have some decent guns that he can do some damage from distance, Finalized look like they are massively at the disadvantage here and actually rotating away from this fight. So Finalized really have struggled here to find a consistent drop spot that they're happy with here on Kings Canyon. Oh, look at this Bryn taken down as well.
Bryn goes down. That's the second game where he has been one of the first to fall on the side of Finalized. He hasn't really had a good time at finding armor at the start of the game, bless him. And now the rest of the boys are probably just going to have to leave him for dead and go on without him. And just maybe look at rescuing some placement points, but Figbam do spot them traversing the map into the water, and some decent damage from Xander. Now for Figbam, they can continue their loot, but also well aware that there could be someone underneath them.
Yeah, this waterfalls area just between slums and the destroyed cascades and containment where that fight initially broke out, still very much an action-based area at the start of this game, as Bryn is going to manage to at least get away from this situation for a second, and maybe there might be a possibility of him getting revived, and it looks like, oh, no, Xander going to spot him. Shh. Xander, behind you. Xander. Wrong way. Run!
What's happening right now?
I don't know what's happening.
He's still
he looked at every single bush but the one that he needed to. And here comes the res.
Bubble comes up. Res.
It's not a res. It's not a res. It's not a res. It's a finisher.
We're so wrong.
It was a ruse. It was a ruse. We've been lampooned.
They had me in the first half. I've got to admit, it looked so friendly, their approach. Oh, it's just it's taken me aback. That has. I feel sad. I feel so sad.
Yeah, it's a friendly gibby. It was not a friendly gibby. It was.
I should have known by the bubble colour mark.
Yeah, well, you know, we all make mistakes, right? In the heat of the battle here, it's been a long day of our day one here of the grand finals, but we get a look in a bright green at where that Pathfinder beacon will be lighting up. Capacitor looks like it will be heavily involved. You have some of Labs involved as well. We have seen some finishes in Labs as well as that little settlement, I'd say, just to the north of the cage. There's Figvam now, after what has been an entertaining start to this game. Only one player has been downed, unfortunately, and we got very confused by it, but might result in the end. That's all that matters, right?
That is all that matters. As now all those teams with that information of where that circle is going to be start to plan their trip accordingly. And most teams at this point have their kind of like route. They have their looting spots. They know which way they want to go, and they'll know which teams they want to avoid as well, especially like 8 games deep into a lobby like this. You'll know exactly where other teams are going to be rotating at the same time. And if you know there's been success against certain teams, you might try and take those fights. If you've not had a good time against other teams, then you will, of course, want to avoid those fights. So you just need your IGL to be well aware of who is around and where your planning route is going to be.
Major pushes here inside a capacitor. They've managed to get a building to themselves. They'll be quite happy here with the caustic as well. We'll be able to get some traps down and make this a nice little comfortable place for them to play the rest of this game out. Gambit are the team who are looking across at them at the moment. Loads of charge towers around as well if anyone wants to take the risk and get those ults up and charged almost instantly in comparison to waiting for them naturally to be fully charged. But the Ogre here going to be juggling an armor back as Nessie now involved in a fight, and this one's going to be going down around the farm, and oof, that is a heavy shot with the Mastiff coming in. That takes him down. RPR getting involved in a fight as well with Na'Vi as Maidilol and JMW are going to be the last 2 players alive in this battle as the Gibraltar bubble will be going down on the outside, looking for the finish on the thirst on this player. The only problem is there's a man flying through the air towards him, and all of a sudden it's kicked off here on Kings Canyon. As soon as some shots ring out, the third parties ring out as well.
Yeah, Figvam lose another. Nice picks up a kill, and it's just going to be Figvam down to just 1 now. And the last player doing his best Master Splinter impression is just going to try and survive and move on. And hopefully join the rest of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a little bit later on after this lobby finishes. But Nessie down to just 2. However, Graceful is still there or thereabouts. And I'm sure they'll hope to try and get a res here.
That should be a fairly comfortable res if they can find him. Unfortunately, I think that team below, I say it'll be comfortable. Maybe not. The team is below and more than aware of his position, so he's not going to be able to crawl back into a place where he will be able to be res. The only problem is if they do get a little bit too aggressive on this finish, it could allow the other team to move in and get aggressive themselves, as Nice does get the finish. Joke now retreating, does have the armor swap to work with as well to get back into position to help his teammate heal up, but 56 players remaining, 19 squads remaining, so that was the only other player to be eliminated, excuse me, from our first squad. Martin dropping a little bit of ammo and going to be swapping some things over, but a moment of calm now. Interesting to see that after all of that fighting, it kind of has slowed down a little bit of momentum as teams were trying to be that third party, but also realised it's best to back out in those occasions where you feel you don't have that advantage.
And North just have such a strong set of armor. Yet again, 3 purples across the board, and they are moving right dead center of this circle. No fear from them, but very intelligent moves across this map. Really utilizing the Pathfinder ability as best as they can so they can get into the high ground positions, but also recognizing that they could be pushed at any point, so setting up a bit of a fail-safe in this building, I feel.
I mean, North don't have to do anything crazy in this game to finish top of the leaderboards after day one. And if you would have offered them that coming into today, they would have bit your hand off for it. They would have been more than happy to take that. So I think they realized that they can kind of let other teams fight. They can let other teams, you know, be the aggressors, take those great spots, and they can work their way in a little bit later on if they need to. But Luminosity Gaming, another team who's sort of been progressing as a squad since the pickup of Zanya, joining CHMK. And SJP2, Dan. I heard a little smile from you.
Whoa,
Can hear a smile.
Why would I be smiling? That's unfair.
Because you like teams dying.
I mean, yes, I do. I like to see teams die because it means that we progress and it means that other teams get kills and they find success. Ultimately, Mark, I just like to see success, okay? Don't paint me as the bad guy. I'm not the bad guy.
All I said here was you smiled and you've got very defensive about it. I think that's more of a you problem than a me problem, if I'm honest.
Maybe I don't like
Anyway.
I just want to be grumpy. Flavor of the month. Taylor got himself a gold armor here. And Flavor of the month, they've been on and off today. They've been hot and cold. Certainly in the early stages of this tournament, they were one of the teams that I was like, yes, I love watching this team. They're so aggressive. They've just got raw passion. And I'm glad to see them back on the Revenant composition because I feel like that's when they're at their best. From me watching them personally, of course, they would probably argue different and say, actually, we'd rather not play that on World's Edge and it's just a King's Canyon setup for us. But either way, we'll see whether they can kind of reach the dizzy heights they did in some of the early qualifiers and maybe get a top 3 or potentially even a victory on the board. As I will never get used to that Gibby skin. I'm going to be completely honest. The little polar bear. It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah. It's just a complete character change, isn't it? Like everyone else still looks like the character. That is just a polar bear. Like it's like the Bloodhound, which has the Halloween head.
Yes.
Like it's terrifying. It's horrible. I just don't know what character is running at me. But anyway, back into the game, and we are seeing a little bit of a slower game here in our final game of the day. And that doesn't really surprise me, to be honest with you. I did kind of hint earlier that maybe we are going to see a few teams take a few risks, but we have to remember this is just day one of our grand finals here, and you are going to have teams who are going to be playing this like they do every other game because they know that they've got tomorrow in the bag. They know that they can fix a few of the things that went wrong a little bit earlier in the day, but one team who's looking to get nice and aggressive once again is going to be Na'Vi as they hit the totem, and now they're going to be pushing onto Vibin, I believe that was below them, as they now drop in aggressively. Shots are coming in, but immediately Nineips is going to be reset alongside one of his other teammates, and you have to say that Vibin have done a pretty good job there to hold off that push, but not good enough as the secondary push is now going to be coming in. Knights has to pop a cell, and look at this, Nessie trying to get involved as well as they hear the damage going down. They'll jump in to pick up some of this loot and pick up the pieces that are left behind.
Get a little bit of loot. They weren't able to get Graceful up earlier either. And not able to get his banner. Which is a shame for Nessie. It was a somewhat successful push from Na'Vi. Maybe not as successful as they would have hoped, but I think once that the team below had heard that portal, they probably had a good indication of what was about to come out in front of them. And it was just a team fully totemed up in that death protection. Na'Vi still wanting to have a little sniff at this though, and here comes the third wave of attack now, and they get one down. They lose one of their own, but I don't think it will matter because they still have the man advantage, and they get the wipe. And they should be able to get the res, but Nessie are around, and maybe Nessie will try and get involved on this one if they're smart.
Faizu is holding the angle here, and he has that auto prowler as well. So it's going to be pretty difficult there for Nessie to actually get aggressive. You can see they've actually managed to leave that position, Nessie. They've made their way across a little bit north, I believe they have, towards where North are actually set up, just in the Two Spines compound. So Na'Vi are going to have all this loot to themselves, and they're going to have the KP to themselves as well, and the gold prowler in the back pocket as well. Speaking of little pockets, here's Lava City boys. Finding themselves nice and comfortable here, just outside of the cage, just to the south of that. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, a team who do need a big performance here in this last game, as they're currently in 9th place coming into this game, and the big shots coming out from the R9 as well, going to help their cause, but Strafey needs to be careful here. He manages to get back inside that building at the last second, as Nasky's going to get those fences down to just hold that position. Has to drop the gen as well to get those extra fences up to hold those doors. It looks like they'll survive for now.
And it must be pretty scary. As soon as you see that Bloodhound scan, you're like, oh, well, here comes Ad Hoc Gaming. And we know what Ad Hoc Gaming have to offer. We know how aggressive they can be. So Nasky, Strafe, and Dell straight away into the building just to heal themselves up and try and defend themselves, get those Watson fences up to ensure that it's not going to be an easy push for Ad Hoc. And instead, they've been able to survive here 15 squads still left, and still a minute and 30 before this third circle is going to close. Finalized are in a little bit of an engagement here, but there's a couple of teams that are taking a sniff at it. Yes, Finalized have spotted out maybe one player is a little bit vulnerable, but they don't want to leave themselves too vulnerable themselves, just because otherwise they could fall and give away some easy deaths, and they don't really need to just for the 1 KP. Oh no, poor Pathfinder.
That Pathfinder was kind of squaring up there. He had the boxing gloves on. He was looking for a fight. Unfortunately, as soon as it actually started, he kind of ran away. To be honest with you, he's out there. Yeah, see you later. Hits the grapple, tries to get out of here. 14 squads now remaining as the kill feed is starting to explode in front of our very eyes. LG have managed to pick up some kills, and Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are doing the same, but it's Rugby now who is the last man alive. I'm not sure what this situation is in this fight. Looks like they did actually manage to get the clean wipe, so they'll be able to get a res in this situation and always get the Gibraltar up first, because he can get that bubble down and he can get that res himself, that quick res, while you pop those heals. So that's exactly what they do. Good execution on the res here on the teammates, and LG will live to fight another day as we're now down to 14.
Still North here on top of the bones. They positioned themselves here a little bit earlier. It just means they're pretty difficult to take down. A lot of bones to hide behind, and of course it means they have the vantage point over all these teams, and they're just being a real nuisance at the moment to teams trying to rotate. North are pain in everyone's backside right now. And then once that circle does come in, they've got a nice little dip out strategy to get down into the building they already potentially claimed earlier. And even though Finalized have been able to get away, at what cost? A couple of meds, I guess, is not too much of a problem.
I mean, Finalized have done well to get into this position. They were the ones that were involved in that early scrap that we saw. Cooler Esports now have made their way into Capacitor, such a difficult place to rotate into as well from that high ground. You have to slide all the way down through those lines of sight of those people holding the buildings. And Cooler will find themselves a little spot here as Ro's going to move forward as the Watson. Maybe he's going to try and set up base a little bit for them as Yuki's watching the back there, popping a Phoenix kit as well as Ro and Yuki tried to give him a little bit of cover. And now Bryn and Finalized moving forward. Look on the Gibraltar, trying to scout out some positions maybe to move for as that portway's going to be going down. Some nice shots to back that team down as well. You have to see if Finalized take this portal, but look at the distance they've got to cover here. Real difficult situation here for Finalized to make the most of.
Oh, that is a heavy shift of the circle, and that is not good news for Finalized. You're completely right. They're going to have to go across the entirety of Capacitor to get towards down outside Labs. And Lava City boys, after hiding for so long, are not able to do anything with it. And here comes North now. They smell a couple of weak enemies and potentially more KP on the line, and it's going to be an absolute hunt from RPR. A great demonstration of how to move effectively and quickly across the map while still ADSing and still being able to do some real damage. North are relentless right now. They are a scary, scary team to have on the map.
RPR has one of the best wingmans in the game, and I have absolutely no second guesses about myself saying that. He has been so accurate with that weapon, and it's something he picks up so much as well. And when you got the Peacekeeper in the back pocket as well, he's going to be feeling very confident. He has been kind of the catalyst for them recently, in my opinion, for why they've been winning so many of those fights and why they've been winning so many of these tournaments that we've seen going on recently. But Mandy's doing his job as well with the 301, with the 3 times on. I said I wasn't going to do any poetry. It seems like I've started rapping today because that rhymed. So I'm pretty happy with it.
I mean, I've got a feeling later when we get to the Americas that Golden Boy and Bravo might try and get involved with this poem situation. I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like they are going to be jealous of the poems that have come out of our mouths, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to America's later. I've seen
Golden Boy rap, and it was phenomenal. So if you're watching right now, and you're watching the Americas later, which you should be, of course, then you need to get Golden Boy to rap. But one team whose game might be wrapped at this point is North, as Mandy is the last man alive here, overlooking this fight that's going on. But look at those shots coming in from the Pathfinder. He managed to hit 52 on the second as well. This will be a huge opportunity for him to turn this fight around, and Mandy has the opportunity to clutch here, but he's looking to thirst these kills first. Has to pop a battery. More than aware that a team could push him in this situation. Banners are going to be pretty much irrelevant at this point. Mandy's going to be the last man alive here for North. 11 squads remaining. Couldn't quite get the thirst as well as Third Impact are going to be able to revive and get back in the game.
All these teams that are in this engagement also now have to move to this next circle, and they've got 20 seconds to do so. They are going to be chomped at the buttocks by this red, and that is going to be Mandy taken down. So North will fall outside of the top 10, so which opens up the top end of the leaderboard yet again for teams like potentially Alliance to maybe catch them up. And it was Alliance taking down Cooler, you can see in the top right-hand side of your screen. Major pushers are going to be the gatekeepers with so many teams trying to push through this choke. And this is free KP for them. So easy for them to pick it up. Gambit Artico goes down into third impact as well. Major pushers, well, they get a little bit of KP to work with here, but they do have to move quite some way to the next circle, Mark.
8 squads remaining. They can potentially hit that Wraith portal, though, and play this a little bit later. This is a similar zone to what we saw in our last chance qualifier. And this is the position that it was won from, and I believe it was actually won by Outsiders. So they know how to play this zone very, very comfortably. They have to move up a little bit, maybe to that high ground. Maybe it's a little shift than what I thought it was yesterday, but Outsiders still involved. 53 seconds left until we do have to make that move, and you can see these 7 squads converge. But Alliance, one of those teams here, Dan, who are still involved in this fight, and that's huge for their potential to take over that first place point.
Yeah, if they can get like a top 3 here with a decent amount of KP, no reason why they can't go into tomorrow with the lead. After seeing North eliminated in 11th place, they've got an Evo shield. It is all the way up to red for Hackies. They are in a little bit of a tussle here. It's a bit of a back and forth at the moment. They fire a few shots, they drop back, they heal up, then they come back and take another bite. Whereas Luminosity very much are not going to be struggling here. Some big shots there coming out from Sanya. And support there from the team as well, as this should be a victory for them, which it is. Cleve is the last one to fall, and it's going to be down to 6 squads now, as that's going to be major pushes for
Another 100. It seems like everyone's shotguns are hitting for 100 plus at the moment, as Hackies has to do some work to keep his teammates alive here. IPN has been taken down and finished as well, but Alliance are inside that circle, right in the middle, whereas the likes of Ad Hoc Gaming are kind of skirting around the edge of it themselves. So shots here coming in from Zippers with that 301 once again, trying to knock those shields down as we enter the final moments of our final game of the day here on day 1 in our grand finals. And a big performance here for Ad Hoc Gaming really could push them up the leaderboard as well.
Yeah, Ad Hoc Gaming in a really good spot. Alliance are doing okay. They've got 2 of them alive and maybe some KP here for Hackies, which it is. Gets the shots in with the Peacekeeper. They can get the armor swaps to stay alive because they are going to be shot by other teams. Ad Hoc Gaming, Alliance, Gambit, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell still survive here as we're down to 4 squads now.
Tafe takes some shots, has to go back through the portal, but that's going to be only momentarily for him, using that portal to get those angles. And look at the angles that Nasky, Strafe, and Dell have in this situation as well. They have a red Evo fully charged. They have the gold armor on the Wraith player as well, and Nasky with that purple, but they're going to have to make this move from the high ground here. The question is, who has the best spot to work with here as the Bloodhound scan comes in as well, which is going to reveal their position. Here comes the move here from Ad Hoc.
I really like the position from Ad Hoc right now, and they can do some damage here to Alliance, and they've got the back and forth with the portal, which takes them right in to the next circle. So it means they can do some damage, then they can back off and retake this position, whereas Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, they have to do quite a lot to get into this next circle. It's not going to be easy for them. Somehow, Alliance is still going to have 2 alive here. I don't know how they've managed this, and they've worked their way into the next circle as well, Mark.
LG are going to be taken down. And Sanya was the last man alive. And you can see Strafey's going to actually set up a zipline here, so it looks like they might be potentially thinking about a juggle play over that final zone. Alliance still in the game, like you mentioned, Vaves and Hackis. A huge performance from them here, and it could go a long, long way to a final performance here. Here comes the zipline from Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. Now AHG have got to be aware of what's going on their back. Big shots coming in from Atafe, though, to get the knock. Bobbles down. Zipper's there as well, and now we're down to 3 squads. And Matafe's going to have a little bit of time to heal here.
Nasky, Strafe, and Dell will fall. It's just a 1 player of Rugby on LG. Then, of course, the 2 players of Alliance, but Rugby has been spotted out. He does do a lot of damage, but he can now come from behind, and he's going to be a real nuisance here as a 3rd party, but he does fall, which leaves us with just 2 squads, Mark.
Yeah, this could be Alliance here. They've managed to take down AHG, and that damage that was done by the Luminosity player has really changed the complexion of this game. I said that Alliance needed a big performance in our last game, and that says it all. Alliance close out our day 1 of our grand finals here with a win, and that sets up tomorrow absolutely beautifully.
3 victories for Alliance today out of our 8 matches. They were only able to find 1 victory out of 24 matches when we were in the qualifiers leading up to these grand finals. So they have really stepped it up when it came to this weekend. And you're completely right. I mean, they were down to just 2. At one point, they were down to just 1 and managed to get the res off. But it was just that one remaining player on LG. Rugby just really threw a spanner in the works and gifted Alliance the chance to get back into that game and take that victory.
Yeah, huge stuff from Alliance, and as you say, all the cards fell their way at the end of that game, and Na'Vi here trying to be the aggressors once again at the start of this game, and doing so pretty successfully. But this was the moment that I thought that Mandy was really going to clutch up here for North and really change the tide of the grand finals here with another big performance. But Third Impact as well, one of those teams involved in those last moments. But LG, every time I've seen them with a Mastiff in hand, it's been 60 plus, 100 plus. They really have been putting these shotguns to use.
They have indeed. Honestly, like, the shotgun work has been incredible from everyone. And of course, when you get a peacekeeper in your hands, it's whenever I say that word, apparently it makes me gag. A peacekeeper is just so much damage nowadays, ever since it was shifted to that gold item. But this is the end. Ad Hoc Gaming were in prime position, but then it was just the one player of LG, Rugby, just making it so difficult for them. He did so much damage with some of the shots he was able to put in, and Alliance came in, they sweeped and said, thank you very much, we'll take our 3rd victory of the day.
Yeah, amazing shots there from Hackis at the end as well. Him and, surviving as a duo in that situation, finding yourself in a center zone position in one of those strange circles where a lot of teams are still trying to make their way in is the perfect situation to find yourself in, because everyone else has to fight, and then you can take that moment to, of course, pick your moment, should I say, to engage, and the help from Luminosity certainly will be remembered. But here are some highlights from today's action on Kings Canyon. We'll go back to our Game 5 where it all started off, and this was the SJP2 game, Dan.
This was the game where we kind of got a little bit of an indication how the meta was going to shift moving from World's Edge into Kings Canyon. Were we going to see a little bit more aggression? Were we going to see a couple more Revenant crypto comps? And we did. I think we were up to about 3 after the first game, and I think it might have shifted to 4, potentially even 5 as we got to the last game of Kings Canyon. But this was the first one. This was also where we had the bunker battle of 2020, where Major Pushers eventually came out on top. But it was just really a great game on Kings Canyon, where a lot of teams got a little bit more aggressive and weren't afraid to push people that were kind of residing in these little buildings.
Yeah, it was came down to these last moments, pretty open last zone, and once again LG didn't work as that final player alive. And this time it was Zanya who managed to get those knocks, and North in position to maybe win this game, but no surprise to see them involved in these final moments again. Arguably the most consistent team, I would say, until that last game, because we look across the leaderboards now, and you look at how many games have been won by different teams, and Alliance have won 3 out of the 8 games today, which is monumental from them. That really is a return to form.
But we have to look at the drop-off from Alliance. When they're not winning the games, they were down in 18th to 20th, and it meant that North, with their consistency, were above them in the leaderboards. Of course, that might have changed now with North dropping out a little bit earlier than they usually have been in this tournament. But it means that it's set up for anyone to take things, or I say anyone, there's about 6 or 7 teams that realistically could win this tournament now, in my opinion. A lot of the other teams have kind of dropped off a little bit, but they can still be a thorn in the side of a lot of these teams who are going for that first place. As we move to highlights of match number 6, match number 6 was pretty fun as well. We saw a couple of teams just shifting over to that Revenant composition. We saw how effective Caustic can be in certain scenarios as well. But it was another kind of fastest, explosive game where around this mark of Circle 4 closing in, we started to see teams just get absolutely wiped off the face of Kings Canyon.
And this was arguably my favorite play of the day that came, and it's going to come up now, and it was from Alliance, of course. The Pathfinder coming in absolutely huge. Vase deciding to pick the moment where the player was healing, and look at those shots with the R99. That was the opening that they needed. Call was forced to drop, and they dropped into the jaws of Alliance, and that was their 2nd win of the day confirmed. That was what they needed at that point, because North were starting to kind of chomp at their heels a little bit. But speaking of North, in the next game, well, it was all theirs, Dan.
Yeah, this is where North really showed up. And again, it was just a great display of rotating early and holding on to the high ground and ensuring that you don't push fights unnecessarily, but you take your advantages when they are presented to you. And it was a circle that shifted heavily towards airbase, so it meant that a lot of teams were able to rotate quite early on. And we saw, again, just sheer aggression from these Revenant compositions that were able to find a little bit of success by utilizing the ability of Wraith to use the portal, so you have that second wave of attack after the initial totem.
And that was Alliance being taken down in that situation by Lava City Boys. This was Na'Vi being taken down inside of that building. And in these end moments as well, LG were in position once again to make their way to that end zone, which they've done on numerous occasions today. They just haven't been able to convert maybe inside of that top 5. And maybe a team to look out for tomorrow if they can start to just tighten up that end game a little bit.
But it was North who had found themselves above both these last two teams who were fighting, and as soon as they had done a little bit of damage, they were able to drop and get the final shots to win their first game of the day. Despite the fact they were very high up in the leaderboards, they just weren't finding those victories, and that victory did then propel them to top of our leaderboards going into match number 8, our final match of the day. But with them being eliminated in 11th place, Mark, it does leave things open, I feel, for Alliance to, if not leapfrog them, certainly get very close to them.
Now, well, speaking of points, we will take a look at the points after the last game. Of course, Alliance took 19 of them home, and just behind them, actually, was Ad Hoc Gaming with 18 points of their own, with a lot of KP on the board. Same with Luminosity Gaming. Great stuff from them. Nasty, Strafe, and Dell again. These are the kind of games, those kind of games where you sneak into the top 4 and you manage to put some KP on the board, which can change and keep you in, touching distance with the leading pack. So a big performance from them. North inside the top 10, still managed to get 4 points on the board. But Alliance with that 19 really not only could have closed the gap, but might have had enough just to overtake. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, do you remember your maths, Mark? It was an 18-point advantage, which means that we are going to see North still just above Alliance, only by 3 though, setting us up with 2 clear front runners going into tomorrow's matches. I would say that Ad Hoc Gaming, Luminosity still have a chance. I mean, actually, Ad Hoc Gaming, Luminosity, Major Pushers, SJP2, Third Impact, all these teams that are around on 50 points still could win this tournament because there are 8 matches left. But North and Alliance have to be the favorites going into tomorrow's games, just with how they've played today and the consistency that we've seen out of them.
Yeah, still a surprise for me to see Gambit Esports down in 17th place. Always expect them to be up there. But a little bit of a sloppy day for them, but I'm sure that they're going to be back tomorrow and looking to put all of that right. But it really has set us up nicely. If North win that last game, or North put in a big performance in that final game that we have there on Kings Canyon, then, tomorrow starts to look like, it's North to throw away. But now that we've got Alliance and North both in competition for that first place spot, as well as you say, a lot of teams still very much within touching distance with a few big games tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be huge.
It is going to be like a huge day tomorrow. I'm so excited. Of course, we have the Americas coming up as well. So it's not like it's just the EMEA action. We've got all the grand finals that are going on right now. And we've got the best teams in the world all battling it out for a decent amount of prize money. And of course, ALGS points on the line too. So it's been a great day. I'm excited for tomorrow, and I'm excited to watch the Americas, Mark.
Yeah, watch the Americas. That's what you should be doing after we finish the broadcast here, and make sure that you tune in to watch what is going down on the other side of the pond. But Dan, what's your takeaway from today? Your highlight of today? What is your play of the day? Straight up.
Oh, my play. Oh, yeah, I was going to say that's one of my favorite players.
We can both have the same. I
think it's just been Alliance in general. 3 victories is not an easy feat in a lobby like that, especially when you've got 8 matches to win almost 50% of them. Just shows that they are one of the best teams. And considering they didn't have that consistency coming into the grand finals throughout the qualifiers, throughout the 4 weeks that we've already had here in the Masters Summer, means that we really have seen a different squad ending up here, and we have seen a different squad turn into these finals, and I'm excited to see what they do tomorrow. But I feel like Alliance and North are our 2 front runners.
All right, that's going to do it then for day 1 of the EMEA Grand Finals here in the GLL Masters Summer. Thank you all so much for joining Dan and myself to watch all of the action. Just a reminder, the Americas is coming up later, but for now, for the EMEA region, it's all set up for tomorrow, of course, with Alliance and North leading the way. We'll be back tomorrow with the second day of action where we'll be crowning our champion. We hope to see you there.